being July 13th, 2021, 4 o'clock p.m., City Hall Council Chambers, Brainerd, Minnesota. Can we get a roll call, please? Ms. Bergman or Kim? Make sure your mic's on, folks.
Tim Boder,
Here.
Troy Rushmeyer,
Here.
Kara Schaefer,
Here.
and Kevin Yeager.
Yes.
Andrew Scheib.
Here.
All right, good, thank you. So in our longstanding tradition, we always ask for a volunteer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll look for anybody who would like to do that. Make me pick someone. Thank you very much, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So I have one change to the agenda, and as riveting as the work that we do on the park board, I'm sure that everyone in this room would like to not have us go all the way through old business as well as some new business before we get to the forum. So I'm going to move the forum to right after the consent calendar, which will be 5.5. First item on our consent calendar is a notice to the public that all matters are listed or considered routine by the board and will be enacted upon as one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion. This consent calendar includes approval of the minutes, approval of the disbursements, financial reports, approval of new hires, and a wage increase memo. Are there any other additions, substitutions, or changes to the agenda?
Is my name on the wage increase?
Your name is at the top of the wage increase.
We're gonna get a dime.
All right, good. We got an agenda. All right. Having said that, we are going to move directly to 5.5, the agenda item 5.5. This is the public forum. Okay. I'm going to tell everyone in this room exactly how this is going to work. All right. What will happen is I will open the public forum, and then we would like, I would like for those who would like to speak to come in 3 waves. The first wave is anyone who might be in this room who is not intending to talk about the ski loons. Today's your lucky day. If you are here and you don't want to talk about the ski loons at all, you're going to be in the first wave. The second wave will be geared towards those who are complainants of the ski loons and what's been going on with the ski loons there. And the third wave will be then turned over to the ski loons leadership and then ski loon supporters. Does anybody have any questions about how that will work? Very good. So as a condition of the public forum, we would like for everyone who is here who would like to speak to be able to speak if they wish to do so. There's a caveat to that, and that is that if we are hearing the same thing over and over from people who are coming forward to speak, we may ask that that we cut it to those who would like to bring something forward that is new or is something that hasn't been spoken before. Okay, we've got a full agenda today. We like to keep everything moving. When you come up, you'll stand at the podium here. You will please give us your name and your address so that we can just have that as a matter of the record. And then we, again, in an effort to keep things moving, like to keep it to around 3 minutes if at all possible. Okay. The only thing I would say is that we're all neighbors in this town. We all would probably prefer to not be here. I would like to ask that everyone is polite and understanding of the positions of those people in this room. I would also like to say that under no circumstance will we have any banter between the 2 groups within this room directed towards each other. Okay? If that happens, or if we get to a place of general saltiness, we'll probably just close the forum and then the board will move on. Okay? So that being said, the only other thing I will say is that once the forum has been closed, this board may choose or may choose not to take any action today, but after that is done, there will be no more forum. So once the forum is closed, we'll make any decisions that we make, and then you guys are welcome to stay for, again, what is riveting work that we do here.
Please do.
Please do. It's very exciting, but don't feel obligated to stay under any circumstance, okay? Everybody got it? All right, we're good. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open the public forum at 4:05, and I will ask the first wave of people to come up, which would be anyone here related not to the ski loons. 4:05. Very good. Anyone from the first wave? All right, first wave's done. We're going to move on to the second wave, and second wave will include those who would fall into the group of complainants of the ski loons. And at this time, I'm going to open it up to whoever would like to come forth and chat. So we're here to listen, everyone, and we'll make sure the microphone's on for us. Ms. Sandy, please. Very good, thank you. Please name and address and.
Julie Aspros, and I live at 14855 Wonderland Park Road, Brainerd. So we are the fourth, I guess, house from Lum Park. And looking today, I believe, ski loons, the program started about 7 years ago. And at that time, it was practices were only a few times before the shows. So there wasn't much disruption around the area. Each year it got more and more and more, and to the point where they would shoo us out, get into your dock, get out of your dock, get out of the way when you're trying to get in and out, which, they couldn't do, but, trying to be polite and get out of their way. Just too much traffic, with the practices Monday through Thursday, 6 until dark, yelling, screaming. The shoreline has decreased a lot. We've lost about 2 feet just at our place, so I can't speak for, the rest of the people on our side, but it has been a lot of erosion. No regard for the wildlife out there. Loons, baby loons, they're in the path, they just go by. If you're fishing, right by, so it's just gotten worse and worse and worse, and unfortunately it's come to this point. I think the program in itself is a good program. I think it's great trying to get, teach youth new, activities, keeping them engaged in different things, but it's just too much for our area.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Harding.
I don't know if it's going to be a wave. Wayne Harding, 14813 Wonderland Park Road. I was going to have Julie talk about the neighbors that were in the boat that I see everyone's seen the email. They leave, they're weekenders. They talked to Julie when they came in. I don't know what went on there. I was actually fishing on the other side of the lake, but somewhere between our trampoline, the neighbor's trampoline, our dock, and the neighbor's fishing boat that they came by, they were trolling at about 1.5 miles an hour. So I'm not sure they were darting in anybody's way. They troll the weed line every single weekend. That's what they do. We laugh. We call them the hippie trollers. They got hair down to the lower back, and it's what they do every weekend is troll around the lake. So it happened to be in the path of where they were skiing this Saturday, which was supposed to be a Monday through Thursday. We'd agreed on it. Instead, they're showing up Fridays. They're showing up Saturdays. Whether they're organized or unorganized, they're doing it because your dock's there and because the ramp's there, and they're utilizing it. And I don't blame them because it's there, but if we're going to have this agreement, then they need to stick to it. And if he doesn't have control of the ski loons and what's going on with all these people in it, then we need to remove the other stuff so it doesn't happen. Because right now, we agreed 2 years ago that it would be 2 nights a week our direction, only for the pyramids and only for the ski jump. Last week, I think we decided all 4 days they were our direction at some point during the night. And then Saturday from, I don't think you were home.
No, Stacy said 10 to 4.
Yeah, about 10 to 4:30 all Saturday to this Learn to Ski program, and that they're denying was their program. It was their boats, their people, their program. The first night they practiced, they came between the dock. I sent you guys all a video. We had a big blowout. Here we are, a month and a half later, and we're dealing with it again. I'm just done. I'm done dealing with it. They're using the thing when they aren't supposed to. They're coming within 25, 30 feet of the raft, of the people out there moving around. I mean, it's crazy, and it's gotten out of hand. I think the common sense thing is that everybody, you can't be on that little bit of water 4 days a week, for 20 hours a week. It's too much to ask of a homeowner to have that in front of your house for 20 hours. I've talked to the sheriff. who called me today because he got the email string and explained to him what they're doing is not illegal. I understand it's not illegal. And what I did last night wasn't illegal either, and I'm sure that's going to come up. So here we are at a dilemma of who's going to stand in the way. The only way I think this is going to stop is if the park board takes control. It's not illegal, so there's no DNR going to bail you out. There's no DNR going to say the erosion's too bad. There's no police guy that's going to come there and slap their hand and say you can't be that close to another boat. I understand that might happen. That's not going to fix the problem. The problem has to come from here, because last year, when there was no dock, no ramp, we had no issues. So here we are, 6 to 9:30, Monday through Thursday. Now they're coming on Fridays, now they're coming on Sundays, now they're coming on Saturdays. And it's only ones and twosies then, and it's not so bad to deal with. But the point is, if they're part of the ski loons, he should be telling his people, hey, let's stay away. We're already taking up 20 hours of their week, and it's not happening. So if it can't happen, I say we eliminate it. They want to do the shows, great. Find somewhere else to practice. What happened last night, I talked to the sheriff, he might be here. I said, hey, if I can do the same thing during the show, I understand they permit the area, but if I want to park where I park on my dock, and I have a raft permit just like they do, I can put it out. I haven't put my raft out yet. So here we are at a dilemma that I think could have been avoided if they just followed the rules. And they didn't. And so here we are. I stuck up for them. April, when I was in here, said, no, 4 days is fine. I don't need to go to 3. I don't need to go to 2. Last year or the year before, they went straight out. Things were fine. This year it's been everything but that. So I'm at the point of ending it. So that's where I stand.
Thanks, Wayne. Anybody else from Wave 2? Last call. Anybody else from Wave 2 has a complainant of the loons, ski loons? All right, very good. I'm going to move on to Wave 3, which would be loons, and I'd probably first like to have the management of the loons or somebody that's a representative of the loons come up. Chris, probably you, and tell us how what you'd like for us to hear and state your case here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take more than 3 minutes because there have been a lot of complaints alleged against us unfairly, and we'd like to make sure we take the time to adequately address all those. Some of the responses already went out in the email. A few of those we're going to talk about, and then I'd like to open it up in this third wave to a lot of our members and supporters, and then I'd like to come back and kind of wrap that up afterwards and have a chance to speak a second time if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Starting off with the Brainerd Ski Loons, we are here to make a positive impact in the community. We believe we are doing so. We are providing opportunities for kids to come and learn to ski, for the community members to enjoy the park. We provide opportunities for personal development, teamwork, and community involvement through water sports. We remain constantly respectful of our friends and neighbors, and we try to share the lake with everyone who's out there. There's definitely differing opinions, as you've heard tonight, from what is coming down to, and I'm trying not to turn this into a he said, she said, they did this, they did that. Really what it comes down to is the rights of individuals, and it comes down to the law. Because when you get to these contentious areas, the laws are there to help guide our decisions on how we go about things. And it's based on the freedoms of people and the rights of people to be able to utilize the public water, utilize the public park, without infringing upon the rights of the neighbors and everyone else that's there. And that's what I'd really like to try and focus my discussion on, is upon the rights of the individuals. So we'll get to that in a bit. First thing is addressing our contract and what happened on Saturday. On Saturday, which seemed to be what triggered all of this, there was a Learn to Ski event that was coordinated by Bill Bivens. The Ski Loons historically had done a Learn to Ski program, and we have kind of shifted into things where we are focusing more on the shows and kind of the development for the shows, and we weren't going to run a Learn to Ski program this year. Bill is a great guy. He's very passionate about teaching kids how to ski, and he said, I'd love to run that myself. We said, that's fine. We're willing to support you. We feel it's a great endeavor. And he set up the dates and the times, coordinated with the kids. He did ask if he could use our boat and our boom, which we have the equipment. It's closer there. It's more convenient. He's a volunteer, so that he didn't have to pull his boat out personally and was able to use our equipment. And that was why we didn't consider that within our 4 practice days that we have been allowed, and we'll come back and touch base on the limitation of those rights there too. Bill was able to go out Saturday. He taught kids how to ski. He went up and down the shore. In the email, I had stated that Bill had gone in between, so when we had talked about trying to do our part and compromise and be good neighbors, we had kind of established that they had the swim raft out there, and we were going to avoid going in between the swim raft and the dock, because that was what we felt like was a reasonable distance to go. And there was one pass where Bill went between that dock, and that was not what we had agreed upon, and he apologizes for that. Originally, the email, I had sent out some things that saying that we were going to be stripping his membership and doing all this stuff, but after gaining more insight and being able to talk with Sergeant Brad Thiesing from the Sheriff's Department, we were able to clarify that he did no wrong other than he did what we said we wouldn't do, but he did not break any laws. He was never skiing closer than he should have been. He was never putting someone in safety. There was no one on the dock. There was no one on the platform. And because he did not break any laws, we want that to be shown for the record, but that he did not abide by what we had originally talked about. The other thing that was the restriction on the contract that we had with you guys was that we wouldn't be able to use the dock, and that the ski looms would be barred from using that section of the park during not the 4 days. And the plan was to have them load and unload at the public beach launch, but it sounds like most of the parents and kind of went over there, so he used common sense and said, oh, the kids are all over here, let's not bog down the boat launch, and they let the kids come onto the dock and load and unload from there. Again, if as an independent event, it shouldn't be a thing, but we tried to keep as much separation as we could, and it was just going to be going out using public water, which we have a right to do. Bill Bivens is here tonight? Yep. So he will make a statement later, and we'll come back around to that. But from the ski loom side, that is what happened, and that's where they were trying to teach kids how to ski on a Saturday. It was in partnership with the organization, but it was not directly managed by. And that's why I said it seemed a reasonable thing that he can take a boat and go pull skiers that are separate from our water ski show practices that we run Monday through Thursday. Going into the bigger issues of the laws and things that govern the lake, there's very clear and established laws that everyone has the right to use the public water. The ski loons, anyone else, can be out water skiing on the lake. There's a camp that pulls tubers on Rice Lake. They're there. They can do that 7 days a week from sunrise to a half hour after sunset. The laws are in place and set very clear guidelines. With the public park, I looked a little bit into this too, and with the rules that govern the public park, I believe I made some mistakes in the past in the contracts that we put together. In trying to be a nice and accommodating individual, we unfairly limited the rights of our members. Because as far as I understand it, if it's a public park, you cannot unfairly discriminate against people coming in using the park. And there were a couple individuals that were also there on Saturday, Jim and Kelly Larson, that were there. They are members of the ski loons, but they were there meeting some friends, and they were there skiing from the dock. And part of the issue that comes up in the contract is it leaves this gray area of, okay, if you're a member of the ski loons, are you barred from visiting Lum Park on times that aren't during official practices? If you are, that's an infringement upon the First Amendment right to be able to use public facilities. If there's a park-wide ban that doesn't discriminate against water skiers or against the ski loons, that says no one can use this dock, or you said certain parts of the park that are off limits to everyone, not just because they're a member of a certain organization, then that's a different issue. But as it stands right now, we'd like to see that change. Sergeant Brad Thiesing is here, and he can also clarify some of the rules. He did help us notify, because there was a rule that was commented on by Wayne in one of the emails that said, ski loons, anyone pulling a water skier has to be 100 feet away from the dock. And there is no law in Minnesota or rule governing that. You can be as close to a boat as is deemed safe. And when you're landing and pulling skiers, you can be 20 feet off a raft, and that is just fine. It's acceptable as long as no one is being endangered and there's no harm being caused. The complaints that are coming from the neighbors, basically what it comes down to is they don't like us expressing our rights to be able to use a public water. The demands that they're making I deem to be unfair because they're infringing upon all of our members and we're getting limited from being able to use the water. And again, the laws are set up in such a way that it will allow for everyone to be able to share. We can be out there skiing. We are in no way inhibiting neighbors or community members from being on the water, fishing, going to and from their dock, enjoying the lake. We are simply there utilizing our own rights. The other thing that I would like to read is an excerpt from an email that got sent to me from Wayne that we've done a lot over the years to try and accommodate this. We have changed our boat patterns to be able to send more things out into the lake. We have changed the angle of our dock to be able to go further out from shore on our takeoffs. We have moved our ramp further down when they complained that they had to look at it, even though, again, we have a permit from the sheriff that's there. We strive to be courteous and listen to the neighbors, allow them to come in and out from their bow landings, never trying to get in the way. And that definitely was not reciprocated last night, where last night we have our practice and Wayne had 2 boats parked out right on our entrance and exit to where we would normally bring and stand off skiers, and is borderline on harassment. Here's an excerpt from Wayne's email, because the feeling I get from that is no matter what we do, there's constantly an eye on us, and it's trying to ensnare us in a trap to show that we're doing something wrong. It's no longer become just reasonable requests, and this is getting out of hand. Here's the excerpt from the email. Here are my options as I see it. I can go after the money. I can talk to your sponsors. Brainerd Legion, Sertoma, Rotary, T-High, Advantage Team, Scutters, Crowing, Recycling, etc. Well, I myself am a member of a past and have plenty of friends and family apart from these businesses and organizations that I do business with. I tell Corey J. he's sponsoring an event that a nuisance to the homeowners around the lake. His potential customers might change how he thinks about donating. I'm an active member of the Brainerd Legion and pretty close friends with the new commander, Kevin Stunek, who happens to be on the Brainerd City Council, and really close friends with the past commander, Dwayne Collins. I have also obtained a swim raft from the county. I could choose to put another raft out. I could choose to fish in front of the ski loons dock as close as you did to my dock last night, and nobody can say a thing. This will end the ski loons using the dock and take care of the problem once and for all. I can call the water patrol and wage a complaint every night somebody passes too close. They were on the lake last night and watch what happens. I wanted to give it today to cool down, as this is why I didn't talk to you last night. Since you seem to think ski patterns are the answer to being on the lake, I will now have a fishing pattern that keeps me between the ski loons dock and my dock between 5:30 and 9 o'clock p.m. Monday through Thursday. I guarantee you it will be easier to stay away from my dock. Wayne Harding. That borderlines in a very threatening email to our organization as a whole. At this point, I would like to open it up to, if I can suggest an order.
Please, please.
Okay. I'd like to open it up to Bill Bivens first to address some of the things from the Saturday. And then if I could have the Sheriff, Sergeant, if you'd be willing to speak just to say a couple of the rules. Again, clarifying you're not speaking in for or against things, but just clarifying what the rights are in the water and what the laws are. And then I'd like to open up to our supporters to express a lot of the good things that we're doing in the community and the benefit that we provide to the Brainerd area. And then I'll wrap my comments up at the end.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Bill Bivens. I'm at 26473 Ross Point Road in Nisswa. My name is Bill Bivens, as I said, and I wanted to apologize for any inconvenience or perceived slight that happened on Saturday last weekend. A year ago, as Chris had mentioned, I approached the ski loons because I know that Dr. Howell was doing the Learn to Ski program on his private lake or his lake where he lives. He decided to not do that anymore, and so I wanted to kind of pick that up. I'm an avid snow skier, and I'm an avid water skier, so I really wanted to kind of, I love when kids are learning how to ski, so it's one of my passions. And so we ran this summer 2 days, and that's what I had agreed with Chris in the fall, of running 2 days in the summer. We were going to do full days instead of splitting it up over time. And so we had run on June 19th, and we had run on Saturday, July 10th. That was this last weekend. Both of these days were Saturdays, and we asked Chris to use the Learn to Ski program, or the Ski Loons boats, and the dock, and we did that on both days. However, on the 19th of June, the lake was so windy on all areas of the lake that we had to go upriver. We didn't have the ability to kind of pass that day. However, on this Saturday, the best water for teaching, 9, 10, and 7, 10, 9-year-old kids was on the south end of the lake. And so I was running anywhere from 10 to 13 miles an hour with young kids behind the boat and 5 or 6 kids in the boat, and adults in the boat. And one of the reasons that I was kind of staying on the south side of the lake was to basically give the parents a chance to take pictures as I passed the docks. Their kids, this is their first time they were skiing. This is the first time they were behind the boat. We were doing all the things where the kids learned how to stand up on the skis on the dry land. Then we moved to the boom, and then we moved to the short rope, and then we were moving to the back of the boat. But again, as no slight to any neighbors, they mentioned the gentleman that was in their boat going back and forth. I was on a dead line straight out to the corner. It was more northeast, I would guess, away from them. And he kept kind of going back and forth, even some of the people said, but I just kind of tried to not be in his way and just to let him do his thing. And I was doing my thing, which was pulling the kids and doing that type of stuff. I felt like we were being safe. I thought we were going slow enough. I thought we were staying far enough away from everything. Again, everything rests on me because I was there. I was running the Learn to Ski program. I don't believe that it was directly involved the ski loans. So, however, there was one incident because I had some volunteers from the ski loans in my boat. They wanted to do a one-run pyramid at the end of the day after everybody was done to show the kids what they were doing. And at that particular moment, I pulled the kids off the boat and I went straight, and being straight was between the dock and that trampoline raft. And that was the one time, and I made really long loop, came around, and dropped the kids off at the dock. And that was the only time I went between there. Again, I'm taking responsibility for that. I did that. The ski loons did not do that. I made that decision. It was wrong, and I apologize. So I really do apologize to you guys. So other than that, I just want, this letter is intended, or my speech is intended to really hope to accept that I did what I did is wrong, and it really isn't to blame the ski loons for my miscalculations. So I appreciate this. If you have any questions, you're free to ask.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Questions? Bill?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Brad Thiesing with the Crown County Sheriff's Office. And our department, our office, is in charge of enforcing the rules and laws out there on the water. There's been a lot of turnover within our department, so just in the boat and water area. So just getting up to speed on what was going out there took a little bit just to, talking with Wayne here and Chris, just kind of find out what everybody's side of the story is. But as far as they mentioned, there is no specific distance requirement for boats when they're towing skiers. There's specific laws to jet skis, and that's 150 feet from structures and swimmers and anchored boats, but that doesn't apply to the skiers being towed by a regular boat. Our department is also in charge of issuing the permits, whether it be for the structure permits or for the event permits. The Learn to Ski class is something that I was just learning about here within the last day here. That would be something that we'd also be seeking that they would get a permit for prior to hosting those events. Any of the events that are going to be open to the public, for whether they're training events or the ski events for the shows that are put on for the public, those are events that the department requires them to obtain an event permit for use out on the water there. The structure permits, our department also does issue those out for the swim rafts and again for the ski jump out there. Historically, those structures are supposed to be maintained out of navigable waters, and there is some variance with swim rafts to get out to deep enough water to swim in, and with the ski jump raft, because that obviously has to get out too so that it can be utilized by the boats. Do you guys have any additional specific questions that I might be able to help you out with?
Anybody?
I do. Was there anything illegal that happened last night?
So last night you're calling a question when you parked, when there was two boats parked on the on either side of the structure. There was no event permit issued for that night, so there wasn't any enforceable law the sheriff's office could take action on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just kind of what's involved in getting one of those event permits? Is it a form? Is there a fee? Kind of
There's a generic form and a fee for processing of the form. It's pretty loosely applied for. There's not a whole lot of stringent requirements associated with it.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm not very well versed with the DNR laws or the government, the county laws, whatever. What are the rules as far as reflections or lights or whatever on rafts and ski jumps that are in the water? I mean, is there something that has to be taken care of for that?
So swim rafts or any water structure that's out there not attached to the shore either has to have reflectors on all four corners or has to be lighted, or can be, we do recommend both, but it's just one or the other.
Thank you. All right, next, please. Gabe? Very good. Mr. Johnson?
Members of the Park Board, Mr. President, my name is Gabe Johnson, 1501 Rosewood Street. Andrew, welcome to the Park Board. Great first meeting for you. I'm just here to speak in favor of the ski loons. I think it's a fantastic group, a fantastic program. I was on the Park Board 7 years ago when they first approached us, and they were just a small group hoping they could grow into something big, and that they have, and I think the growth is a good thing. And I think we should all celebrate that. I do think it needs to be managed. I do think we need to make sure we have to manage the relationships, and we continue to do as well as we can with that, but I think we should celebrate the growth. From my understanding, being part of this for the last 7 years, is the Park Board's decision is whether we have that dock attached to our shoreline. We don't talk about rafts, we don't talk about park usage hours or who's allowed or not allowed in our parks. We either lease this dock that the public uses. We lease it from the ski loons, the public uses it, except for the event days, I think, where it's only ski loons use, or we don't lease that dock, and that would essentially be kicking the ski loons out of the park. And I think that's really the only decision we have at a park board level. So as much as we'd like to fix a lot of things, I don't know if the park board or the city government or any government can really fix relationships. We just need to make sure that our focus is on that dock. Do we want to continue to have that dock and continue to have this successful program in my opinion, our most beautiful park, or do we not? I hope you do continue to lease the dock, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Anybody else?
Delia Bergman, 16224 Miles Circle, Brainerd. Many of you are likely aware of the previous reputation of Brainerd's Lum Park. And when the ski loons were welcomed to Lum Park 7 years ago, countless hours were volunteered by the team to clean up the area. Buckets of broken bottles and garbage were removed from the water from the many years of less than desirable behavior that previously took place at the park. I believe the City of Brainerd and the Parks and Rec Board were wise in their decision to allow a consistent and positive presence at Lum Park with the Brainerd Ski Loons. In the Ski Loons' time at the park, I've witnessed a transformation of Lum Park from a hangout that law enforcement regularly needed to patrol to a thriving community gathering spot where individuals and families once again feel safe to use. So I hope you continue to support the Ski Loons at Lum Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Kara Fraser. I'm at 10576 Pine Song Drive and in Nisswa. And I have these two sons. I am not a member of the Loons. We did the Learn to Ski program, and we were there Saturday, and it was such a great, there was so much support. I'm here to talk about Bill. He was just wonderful. I watched the whole time. I am not familiar with the program. I did not trust them with my kids, and it was safe. It was, sorry, but I do now. But it was safe, and it was wonderful. And the only thing that I was concerned about, there was a boat with some long-haired people that were targeting, and there was a girl behind, and they actually made a go from it when I was looking on the side. So I'm here to say I love the Ski Loons. I don't have any association other than my 2 Learn to Ski days, but I'm supporting them.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Please.
Hello, I'm Virginia Kopp. It's 1119 15th Avenue Northeast in Brainerd. So my dock is right across from the Lum Park boat ramps. So I'm a little bit further away, but the only thing I want to address is boats going out on the lake cause a lot of wave action. And I don't think that the erosion to my shore or any other shore around is related to one set of boats. It's related to the thousands of boats that go very fast all throughout Rice Lake. So it happens, that's what we live with, and being on a shore and allowing such boats on the lake. And I support the ski loons.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. My name's Brian Pike. I live at 15872 Jordan Road, Oak Lawn Township resident. I just wanted to address been a 31-year Oak Lawn resident. I've worked in Brainerd for 31 years. And when I came to the Brainerd Lakes area, I guess I was surprised. I learned to water ski in the Missouri River, where I was born in South Dakota, came to Minnesota. And I was surprised that the community never really had a longstanding ski club or a water ski team. I was just surprised at that. With being the lakes area, there has been some traditional stuff at various places over the years, but I was surprised that the community didn't have that established and had that already going. So I was glad to see and learn that my son was involved in the ski loon opportunity 5 years ago. He started as a charter member along with a few other skiers, learned great techniques. So then, looking at the other communities in Minnesota, there's several places that have long-standing traditional ski teams and ski teams. Competition is part of that. Our club has not gone to those competitions, but Spicer New London on public shoreline, bleachers on there. We attended that event as a bike ride. Buses were there, people were in stands, people were cheering. Their shows are almost more frequent than 4 throughout the summer. They have to practice as well. So I was just surprised that the Brainerd Lakes community didn't have that, and so I support the ski loons as a driver, as a member. Hope that continues, because I think the community over time will have value with the ski loons. And I'm surprised that we are very respectful. I think many of the boat drivers that I operate the pickup boat, I find it hard to believe that we're saying unrespectful things to travelers nearby. I never have heard or witnessed that out there on the boats. If I have heard that, I would bring that to the attention of Chris to say that that language has to stop. We are very respectful and mindful of everyone's rights and desire to use that place. If there's people in front of our boats, we're mindful of that. If there's people on the dock before we get to practice, we allow them to just be there as long as they choose. We let them know that we're having a practice, and they usually, in a few 5 or 10 minutes, leave because the group of people are showing up. So we've never really kicked anybody off or said, this is our spot, this is our place. I'm just surprised that language is out there. So again, I encourage the ski loons to continue, and hopefully, like other communities, can be here for 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
Should I move that?
No, you're fine.
Jill Newman, 5178 Jordan Road. I was going to add a little bit to what Delia said. When I first moved here, I had small children, and we didn't go to Lum Park. It wasn't an environment that I found good for my children. I think ski loons has been a positive change. I think it's enhancing the park. I think it's bringing in small children, families, healthy family elements, things we want. But not only that, ski loons brings economic positive change. People are using things in Brainerd. People are coming to town to see the show. They're getting gas, they're going out to eat. And it's a positive element. So I just wanted to say I support ski loons.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, thank you. Kyle Wickstrom, 4917 Noka Trail, North Brainerd, that's North Long Lake. I'm also not native to the Brainerd area. I've lived here for approximately 6 years. I met Chris about 4 years ago, started talking about water skiing. I had never water skied before. I didn't trust myself, but I trusted him. And he had me up within the first shot. I thought, someone getting a little older, I couldn't do this. I've lived in various different places. I've lived in small towns, small communities. I've lived in major urban centers. I've been a part of a lot of different organizations. Now, every single one of them that has succeeded experiences growing pains. And with those growing pains, we have to collaborate together. Now, with the Brainerd Ski Loons, again, I'm not native, but I've never encountered any maliciousness from amongst any of its members. Whenever we've heard concerns, I've seen them be quick to tackle it, nip it in the butt so it doesn't become a bad habit. So yes, I live on a lake. I live on North Long Lake, and there's boat traffic. The spearfisher, they come by, generally not too disruptive, but what's really disruptive is, BIR across the lake. When they have their drag races, there's a lot of noise. It's very obtrusive. Well, all of this has to do with, where we occupy our space. Where do we choose to spend our time? And it's, can be unfortunate when our paths intersect in ways that maybe can't be accommodated, maybe right away. But I do believe this is one of these positive growing pains that we can work through and continue to collaborate together on. I don't believe there's going to be one day a magic fix. But over time, we can work to a more perfect arrangement where, everybody can be involved in the say, be able to freely express their concerns, and we just work towards a more perfect, a more peaceful coexistence. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Matt Singh, 1101 Lakeview Lane, Brainerd. So I live on Rice Lake. Rice Lake's in my backyard. Memorial Park is in my front yard. So when we moved there, we knew there'd be recreation. You have parks around you, expect that. Same with the baseball park. They have lights, they have light pollution. It's part of living there. It's part of people having fun. I don't play baseball, I don't play softball, but I accept that that's part of living there. And the same with the ski loons. They use the park. I would have never been able to water ski with my daughter had I not joined the ski loons, because my wife can't drive the boat, so I need a driver, So it's been a very positive thing for our family, and I think it's a positive thing for the lake. In respect to shore erosion, when 25 bass boats go across the lake, when there's a camp boat, wake boat going all day long, that's part of it. And, it's unfortunate, but everybody's having fun, everybody's using the lake, and that goes with it. And so the ski loon should have the opportunity to use that park too and recreate the way they want to. So, back when they built those baseball fields, the park board had problems with a gentleman on our road not wanting those baseball fields there, and caused problems. And the park board didn't roll over and say, well, we're gonna limit all these games, we're gonna limit kids from having fun. They didn't allow a few bad players to affect the community. And I think this is a very similar situation here. So.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Kelly Larson, 10805 River Hill Circle in Brainerd. We live on the river, just up towards French Rapids, and addressing the shoreline erosion concern. I'm agreeable to that. Shoreline erosion is a passion of mine too. I don't want to see that happen. But I also can see what a 20, 30 mile an hour steady wind on a given day does, just as much wave action as boats going by. I think education on shoreline restoration, I don't know what your shoreline looks like, but I think that's part of the erosion issue that I just feel passionate about as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Rowley. I live on Lakeview Lane, 1111 Lakeview Lane. And I've been there for about 30 years. When we moved in there, they had the BMX tracks. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And then the baseball field, and now the lagoons. And Rice Lake's become a lot busier since I've moved in. But we enjoy the ski lagoons. We go and visit on every one of their shows. We bring people in from out of the area. They spend money here and do well. So, you know, they need to get this all worked out and to keep the ski lagoons going. And that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Anything else? Please.
Keith Pinsfield. I live just on the south edge of Brainerd. I'm going to go on two different avenues here. One, I have two young kids. They would never be able to ski, never would have, because of choices I made in my careers. I wouldn't be able to afford to do that. They've made it possible. It's a big deal. That's why we have public things. To use the space, to use the waters. We all have those rights. They do it in a positive way. My kids have learned more than just to ski. They've learned how to, as a team, put pyramids together, to teach each other. It isn't just Chris teaching them to ski. You have 13, 14, up to 20-year-old kids, all of them getting together, teaching each other. It's a huge, complex thing. And they do it so positively. In the years we've been there, I've never heard a negative thing there. They encourage each other to do better. If somebody doesn't get what they're getting to in a goal, hey, let's try this, we'll help you. That's the kind of attitude they have. That's what parks are for. Which brings me to my second thing. I work for the city of Baxter in their parks division. Parks are there for positiveness. We like that. As employees, when you see a group using it, it does a couple things. We see the smiles, we see all that great stuff, makes it worthwhile. I don't have a huge paycheck. Every day I see smiles in our parks. You guys should feel good about what you do. At the beginning of the thing, you said that last part of your meeting isn't so great. You get that worthwhileness by the smiles you see. Please, I'm in favor of the Loons, always will be. They've done a great job, and we're pretty new to the community. They've accepted us into it without even us asking them to. So please vote in favor of them.
Thank you. Anybody else? You have something, Wayne, did you want to add?
Well, I'd go after him if he wants to get
Okay.
his last part done.
All right, very good. Back to you, Chris. Thank you.
So where do we go from here? Ultimately, we try and find that balance where everyone has their rights that are tied into law, use of the park, use of the water. Going back to what Gabe was saying, I really agree with that. What the park should be able to decide is whether you have that dock there or not. And Paul Sandy made a comment in one of the emails about this is taking up a lot of city time, and you guys are having to be rule makers for things that there's already laws in place for. There's already guidelines for how to use the water and how to be able to share those common resources. The mission that's stated for the Brainerd Park Board is to offer high-quality, affordable recreational opportunities in a clean, well-maintained park system. And I feel that the Brainerd ski lagoons fit in very well with that mission, what we're able to provide, the value that we bring, the smiles that we bring to all those kids, and it goes very well. Part of the problem I think we're here is actually in the way our contract is written, so I have some updates that I would make that I can send you a copy of that you guys could review. Basically, I would like to remove the restrictions on barring the ski lagoons from being in the park when it's not during a set number of days, because part of that is being a contentious issue, is when some members who are ski lagoons are being there on different days. if we know that we have an established right to use the water 7 days a week, same as anybody else, I don't feel that it's the park board's right to be able to infringe upon our rights to be able to use the dock. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We tried going around that where we're like, yep, go use and put in at the public launch, but don't use the dock. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. They have a right to be out there to be able to do a learn to ski program. So if we remove that restriction, that will minimize bringing some complaints about nitpicking some of the things that we're doing. The other restrictions I would remove are just, again, the things that we allowed to be in the contract that basically infringe upon our rights because we tried to show a good faith effort of trying to be accommodating. And this change of the contract does not mean we're going to quit being accommodating. It just means that it's not going to have to be something that gets brought up that, oh, this is a breach of contract. If there's rules in place that say we can go wherever we want in the water, we will continue to use our good faith judgment to be accommodating of the neighbors and send out as much as we can and continue to strive to have good relationships with the neighbors, the residents, the boaters, the skiers, everyone that's out there. I have always remained committed to that. I have encouraged Wayne, as we went through this, that anytime he had a complaint, please reach out to me first. And on the last 3 occasions that he's had these things, he doesn't come to me first, he goes to the park board first. And in conjunction with that email, this is where I'm convinced he's no longer working in good faith with us to be able to try and reach a good agreement. And I feel like if we make these changes to the contract that we have, that removes those restrictions, it will alleviate a lot of the nuances that we have. We are a growing organization. The other thing these restrictions place is you're limiting the amount of good that can happen in your parks. If you want to be able to offer high-quality, affordable recreational opportunities and then say, oh, we're going to close the baseball fields down because someone doesn't like the lights, you're shooting yourself in the foot. We have a good organization. We have a great thing going. That's why there's more people that are coming out that want to be able to ski, and they have a right to be able to ski on a lake. They have a right to be able to come and use the park. Their parents can be at the park. So I encourage you to look at our new contracts that I have the updates on, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would approve it as such. I feel it would alleviate a lot of the issues, and we remain committed as always to working with the park board. We appreciate your support. We continue to remain committed to working with the neighbors, trying to keep things accommodable, working with the sheriff, continuing to sustain within the law, which we have not done any harm, broken any laws. We're a great thing for the community. We'd really appreciate your support in keeping us here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris. Couple minutes, Wayne.
45 seconds.
Works for me.
One 45-minute period, I spent time out fishing on the lake that I live on in 7 years, and he said I threatened him. They've been doing it 7 years in front of my dock. 45 minutes. Legal. Just like he said, had every right to do it. Sounds like they have a spot to practice on North Long. I'd move to North Long.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, with that, we are going to close the public forum at 4:53. And I will now turn this over to my board for any discussion or any questions for the audience or gallery.
I have something.
Please, Mr. Rushmeyer.
Anybody watched or heard about the Hatfields and McCoys?
I have.
A little bit of fun, but you know, I'll say. Is it not on?
He's on.
Okay. We've had complaints before. We've had you guys in here before. The last time you had far fewer people in here in support of the ski loons, and now we see, you know, a huge amount of people in support of the ski loons, and that's great. I think that's great. But just in listening, all of what you folks have said is, you know, we take it to heart. It's a good thing, and I don't think the homeowners are saying it's not. How many people standing back here live on a lake? Okay, so in this, I ask that if nothing else, try to see things. I always try to look at things from the other's point of view, and so they have, you know, this is their point of view and this is their reality, and you know, they live on the lake for a reason. And the rhetoric that I'm hearing, and this is why I brought up the Hatfield and McCoys, is we're talking about laws, and we can do, there's no law that says we can't do this or we can't do that. I think that rhetoric leads us to further trouble. And I think instead of that, there needs to be better communication and not more rhetoric as far as, well, we can do what we want. Once we're on that water, we can do what we want. Gabe brought up a huge point. All we can do is say whether that dock is at Lum Park or not. That's the extent of what we can do. But in hearing all this, I think a huge part of this comes back to if there's an agreement. It used to be things were lived and worked out with gentlemen's agreements, and if there's an agreement, we should try to stick to it. So I'm kind of looking at this and I'm thinking, Chris, I think in all reality, with Bill going there on that extra day, it might have been a good thing for you to call Wade and say, hey, this is an extra day, this is something that's going on, and you smile, but I'm telling you, good communication usually works and usually helps prevent some of this stuff from happening. And you're saying you want to change the agreement and go to 7 days, and it sounds like what was working. It's just if there needs to be something extra, and I see this growing, what if you guys are twice this big in 2 more years? Is Lum Park, is Rice Lake gonna handle all of what you need to do? I don't know. And we really are kind of at the point where we're getting tired of policing this, because in reality, all we have control of is where the dock, whether or not the dock can be there. We don't want to see kids lose opportunities, and the homeowners, I don't think do either. And we've heard other homeowners who say they're in support of it, and that's great. Fact of the matter is, we all have different opinions. And if we can't learn to communicate and work this out, then we have to make decisions that we don't want to make. And there's too many kids. I mean, you can look, there's too many people involved with this. And so I'll place it right here. I really think that it falls in your lap to help manage this. And I really thought you guys were doing well with this. And, the additional times, Bill, you didn't, I'm also looking at this and saying, did you take the time to talk to Bill and say, this is our agreement? I read your email and you were kind of scathing in the fact that Bill was being disbarred, if you will. He wasn't going to be a member anymore because he went outside of what your policies were. Did he know what those policies were? Again, as it grows, one of you brought up, as it grows, we're going to run into some problems, yes. And that's what's happening. It just means you have to manage better, and you have to manage the communication better, and I think that's really what it comes down to. They have a right to live on their lake. You have a right to use the lake, all of you. And I don't think any of us want to see that change. We just want to see you communicate and get through it, work it out. Because the bottom line is, we can't police it. The sheriff's office can't police it. And I'm afraid what's going to happen is boats are parked in the way and things and tempers rise. Who's on the end of these boats? Kids. I don't think anybody wants to see a kid hurt over these disagreements. And, that's a potential. So I really think this falls back on the communication that was happening right there.
Thank you. Sorry.
My line.
Anybody else? Kara, if you're listening, I can't see you, so just shout if you'd like to say anything. Okay, Kara? Anything? Anybody else? Yeah, please, Mr. Boder.
I don't really have a lot to say. But I heard a lot of the comments saying people were, please support the loons. We all support the loons. We all think it's a fantastic thing, as a board, as a city, as everyone in this room, I believe. So we're not trying to push them out the door and say, go away loons. We just want to make sure that things are put together correctly. And if you do something wrong, you pay the price. As many people know, I'm a little chubby umpire. I'm also a hockey referee. And if you cause a penalty, you go to the penalty box. Well, it's not only the person in the penalty box that pays that price, it's also the entire team if they have to deal with a shorthanded person. So if one person makes a penalty, much like Bill did, the whole team has to pay the price. So a penalty has to be taken care of somehow. We can worry about that some other time. But again, I don't think there's any of us that are worried about getting rid of the loons. We just want to make sure that it's fair for the people that live on the lake, the people that pay taxes in this town, a lot of taxes. I know I live in Northeast myself, so I know it's not cheap. But and the loons are fantastic. And Chris is my dentist office, so I'm on both sides. I'd really like to hear you all get together somehow and make things work the correct way, because we have very little to do with any of this, even though sadly enough, we'd love to be able to make these rules. But as an umpire, as a hockey ref, I can't make up rules as I go along. I just have to follow the rules that are written on the scoreboard or the rule book, as well as the agreement for this year has already been signed. So we almost have to stick with that. But we'll deal with that as we move forward.
Thank you. Anything?
Just to echo,
Please.
I think some of your comments. It's a great organization, I think, right? Teaching kids how to work together and to learn a new skill, teach others. Everybody clicks with a different thing, and that's fantastic to see. I think, right, kind of where you were going with the Hatfields and McCoys, right? Everything's legal until it's not, right? Until something happens where a boat's parked or something, right? The kids are on the end of the boat. So that definitely makes me nervous that, right, there's a lot of discussion around, well, it wasn't illegal, but maybe the intention was to cause some stress or anxiety, and that, right, seeing all the kids in here, right, that definitely makes me nervous. So really, more communication is better. It seems like a great outcome, but I'd love to see everyone sit down and kind of work together and I think take emotion out when possible.
Thank you. Kara, do you have anything? She left? Okay, very good. We should probably record that she's, just so you know, Kim. Thank you. I guess I'll just chime in here. I'm going to say what everyone else here is basically saying. The ski loons, I couldn't say enough good about the organization, what you guys do. Top to bottom, fantastic. This is my issue. We've been in this room before, several times. We put forth a contract which was devised by you guys, met by you guys, and signed by you guys to find this compromise. So this is not just, let's just now start this conversation of compromise. We have a long path of the homeowners and the ski loons trying to find common ground and work from there on out. You guys have proven that this is a sensitive issue with both of you, both what you guys, from the aspect of what you guys want to do, your mission, your goal, all these people in this room, absolutely. It's come to our attention this is very sensitive to the homeowners there, not just Mr. Harding, but other homeowners there. So a contract was devised with the intent of using that common ground. My issue with this is that you knew about this happening on Saturday, and no action was taken to reach out to us, to reach out to him. You seem like a very detail-oriented person. I can't imagine it didn't cross your mind that this wasn't going to be an issue. That's my biggest issue with what happened on Saturday.
Would you like me to speak to that?
No. So at this time, if nobody else has anything to say, I will ask for a motion if one is given. We may not take a motion. We may choose to not take any action now. But I do want to say that everyone here showing up and talking about this and wrestling through this is very, it's a good thing. Okay, so Park Board has made it very clear that we don't want to see the loons go away. I hope that everyone in this room can realize the incredibly difficult position we are in with what's happening here. So with that, I will shut my mouth, and if somebody is prepared to fashion a motion, we'll hear a motion. If not, we're going to continue on.
So I will not make a motion.
Very good.
My thought is that we're gonna push this back in your court, and the reason being is just exactly what Kevin mentioned, is we've kind of tried to referee this through this contract where you guys could come to some middle ground, and again, all we have control of is whether the dock's there or not. I am not prepared to make a motion to say, let's remove the dock. I'm gonna put this back on you guys to say, you have a lot of people that support you. You have other homeowners that feel the same way that you do. I'm gonna put it back on you guys to say, you guys get together and look and talk back about your agreement. And as hard as that is, there's a lot of people here counting on you. And so I am not gonna make a motion to remove the dock at this point. So.
Very good. Anything else? All right, at this point, we're going to continue on. There will be no motion made on this agenda item. We appreciate everyone for coming. And at this time, we are going to move on to our next item. That will be number 6, unfinished business. This is a review of the Interim Public Works Department and next steps. Mr. Sandy, please set us up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you can see in the agenda request, we've reviewed this Interim Public Works Department and how it's gone for the first 6 or 7 months. I believe that we had a meeting with staff and we all felt it was going very well from our end. And I think Chris is here tonight to talk through what our next steps are and if we want to move forward long-term with this Public Works Department.
Okay.
So I'll open it up to Chris.
Please, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yes. So first of all, just to refresh your memory, and since Andrew wasn't here on the park board, to give you a little bit of background, last July, our park director, Tony Saylor, announced his retirement. And at that time, it sparked a conversation. And what the park board and the city council decided in December of last year was to create an interim public works department to see how things went and to see, if it's a good thing, if we should make changes or whatever. From what I'm hearing, I think things are going well. But we wanted to know what staff thought. So Paul, Jennifer, I, Katie, and Kim sat down and we talked. I think Troy was there too. Yep. And we sat down and we talked about some things. There were a couple things that we identified that maybe could go a little bit better, but all in all, things seem to be going well. So we thought as long as the budget process is starting, maybe we should be talking about this. What does the park board think? If you think this is going well, maybe we should start looking at more direction as far as should we be updating job descriptions as far as how this is going. We are doing a market study at this point for all of our city positions, and so we're looking at some of wages to see if maybe there's adjustments that need to be made or anything like that as well. So we wanted to give you an update about that. Do you have any questions at this point?
Any questions? Doesn't sound like it. We're good.
No, and Mr. Chair, maybe I could just add one more thing. We will also subsequently go to the city council and have that discussion there as well. So just wanted to add that in.
Thank you, Mrs. Bergman. All right. I just want to say from my chair, I think the Public Works is going fantastic. This is exactly what I think a lot of us envisioned when we saw this was this massive amount of manpower at the grasp or within touch of those who help work on our parks. I can see stumps getting ground. I can see lots and lots of work being done. So from my chair, I think I have nothing but good things to say about both Paul and Katie and everyone that's helped us through what has been not always like perfectly smooth transition, but we're making it. So I have nothing but good things to say. I thank everyone for sticking it out and toughing through it and all of those. So, anything else? You good, Chris?
I think with that, we'll start to review some job descriptions and bring those back to the board.
I think that'll be great because it also plays into a little bit of our charter work that's happening now and how those job descriptions fit into that charter language as well. So thank you so much.
So is that the discussion and direction that you were at? It's staff recommends discussion and direction on this topic. Was that what it was, is to start looking at the job descriptions?
Right, basically just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we weren't overstepping our bounds. We wanted to make sure that the park board agreed with what staff was thinking. And that's, I believe we received that tonight, so.
Yeah, I think that generally, not all of you have been in the discussions that have been happening with the charter and what we're doing with the charter, but in generally, the trajectory of the charter is moving towards less specific job titles and moving more towards a monolithic government that has the ability to add people or to move people around to accomplish tasks. So more task and job description oriented versus personnel and position oriented type movement. Would you agree with that, Jennifer, Chris? Is that, yeah. Okay, Mr. Sandy, please.
And the intent would be to put this in front of the city council, I believe, at the next meeting. If that's the direction that we're gonna go, then that would be the next step in this process.
And we're talking about putting in front of the city council just the job description aspect or the entire public works as an entity?
To make it no longer an interim, a permanent.
Correct, yeah. I think that's the case.
You probably do need a motion for that then?
I would say it would probably be recommended.
Okay.
That, you know, if that's the direction we want to go, then I would say a motion from you guys would be appropriate, and then we would bring that forward to the council, saying that the park board's comfortable with moving forward with this. And
I would make a motion to make the Public Works Department a permanent.
All right.
Permanent and not interim department.
All right, perfect. We have a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Rushmeyer.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Very good. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Looks like we got a Public Works Department, at least from the Park Board's side of things. Yeah. Item number 6B, this is a review and discussion of the Buster Park shelter material costs. This has got to be Mr. Sandy, please.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chair Yeager was kind enough to go forward and submit his plan to a material supplier, and the prices came over what we were anticipating as a budgeted dollar amount. So we wanted to discuss that a little bit tonight. Obviously, with material prices the way they are right now, kind of leaving it up to the park board to decide whether we want to move forward with this year. After this agenda request was written, Kim actually brought up the fact that we do have an excess of like $30,000 in our park dedication fund, and that's in like the general one that can be used for anything. And so our recommendation kind of changed a little bit from, maybe we fund the large majority of it with our budgeted money of, I think it was 7,000 or 9,000 with our capital budget, and then, just do the rest out of our park dedication and get it built. We don't have our crystal ball, and we can't really tell how material prices are going to fluctuate, but the general, rule of thumb is that things are only going to get more expensive. So what is the I guess what the path moving forward from staff's perspective is, we just fund what we can from our capital and then use park dedication to fund the rest at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy. Any discussion?
How much more is it than plan costs?
Oh, so I cannot remember.
It was 7 to 13. We originally talked about 7.
Yeah, I think we had 7,000
13
budgeted.
was the bid that we got.
Yep.
For the material.
Almost double.
So it's a delta of 6,800, 6,900.
How bad is what we get? I haven't spent a lot of time at the dog park, but how bad is the gazebo that's down there?
It's in pretty rough shape. I think
it's
Katie
pretty
can
rough.
attest to that. It's in pretty rough shape.
I think if we didn't move forward with this is just my opinion, we would tear it down, most likely. It's just my thought, but if you've been out and seen it, it's rickety.
And the price is nobody knows what this is gonna look like next year. It could be 18,000, right? Or it
could be 6.
Or it could be 7, yeah. What's your recommendation?
I think that we move forward with the budgeted number 7 and then fund the rest out of park dedication, the general park dedication fund.
It'll be another, it'd take 6 out of that 30 for this.
Yeah, I think it's
would be
32, I think you said, Kim?
Approximately,
35, yeah.
oh, so
We'd be taking $6,800 out of the 35 grand to finish it out. So we already had 7 set aside. The other option here technically would be we could fashion this into our budget for next year, the whole amount, and technically not use the park dedication fund, but fashion it into our budget.
That would be my wish, if we have a wish, is that, does the city have a park dedication fund as well, or just the park board? Maybe city council should pay for part of it as well as the park board, because all of a sudden we only have $30,000. The city has more than that. If we have to wait, we're better off waiting.
How much would it be to demolish? I mean, ballpark, you know.
I think we could self-perform that.
Yeah,
Mr.
we could do
Sandy?
it ourselves, so a couple hours with staff.
Other discussion here? Just my thoughts are, we're gonna have to pay for it one way or another, and at the end of the day, all of it is paid for by taxpayers, whether it's, through us, through the city side. I'm leery to just stop progress at the thought of, the cost being up, but I get it either way.
yeah, the unknown is we don't know which way it's gonna go. If it's
Could be
gonna go
worse.
higher, if it's gonna go lower, and shot in the dark.
This is most likely a construction project that would happen during warm months, so.
Or we could procure the materials this year and build it the winter and install it.
Right, get the footings in or something
Yep.
during warm weather. All right,
Well, let me ask this, with that being said, since we do have some warm weather yet to come, would it be worth just moving forward with that portion of it and see in a month or so if prices are any different than they are now? Taking a shot at, maybe in a month and a half, prices will be down. I know it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but do we take that?
We could certainly hold off on it, and if it's more of a winter project anyways to build it, I think we would be leery to demolish the structure for this winter, because I think people kind of depend on that as a windbreak down there. So I'd be leery to go tear it down and pour footings without knowing that we're actually going to construct something back in its place. And so it's kind of the chicken before the egg thing. What do we want to, if we're going to move forward with it, I would say that we should know and give us at least a month to, because I would say that if we don't make a decision soon, then we'd have to leave that up for this winter. And if not, we could build it yet and get it installed this summer or this fall.
Could we table this for a month and just see where we're at, price-wise? How much work is it to get a quote for what you have?
I could redo it. I mean, we have a list that's done. I sent it to 2 different companies. The other was higher than this. This was our low number right here. But we have technically a list. He could literally probably just push recalculate and the pricing would repopulate. So I don't think it'd be a big deal. So with that in mind, we could work from our deadline to build the thing backwards and say, what's our last chance to make a move on this? Just see if because lumber is technically, even from when this was taken or when this was done, lumber has come down from when this was. Some parts of lumber. One thing about this is a big part of what these materials are is in Trex decking. It's in the maintenance-free exterior. It's not the lumber, really. There's not much lumber actually in it.
Right.
So
Just seems almost impossible. It's $13,000 or doubled, almost doubled in 1 year, not even 1 year, a few number of months.
Kim?
I just noticed on the quote, they included sales tax, so it's actually $12,542.
Yeah, I asked him about that if we were taxed, if we should have been.
Take
Yeah.
7,000 away, it'd be about 5,500.
Right. So the delta is about 5,500 if you take the tax away.
I would say if we have time still, that we hold off, if, just in lieu of what you just said, and see if we can't get it a little cheaper here down the road a little ways.
So I'll ask for a new number, Mr. Sandy, about a few days prior to the packet going out for our August meeting. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Is that good? All right, very good. We're going to move on. Item number 6C, this is a review of the Memorial Park construction project and approved change order. Mr. Sandy again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Sonmore, he was available to be at our last meeting, but he had some family issues come up that he has the week off here. And so, I'll just be giving a quick update here. So, this update is a couple weeks old right now, so keep that in mind. There has been other improvements that have taken place out there. Utility work has been completed. The frame of the building's up. The roof is on it. It's basically fully enclosed. They're running into a couple material issues out on site, from what I understand. Exterior doors are an issue right now, which kind of leads into other issues with sheetrocking and things on the inside. And so, but they're working through that. We have the building wired, security system wired. All of that is done. Plumbing rough in. I believe they're beginning HVAC work. That kind of stuff. On the exterior, the splash pad has been poured. They've been working in tandem with the splash pad contractors to get that all plumbed in. That has been, the pad itself has been poured, the box has been plumbed, and they were getting ready to install the box and the other amenities at the splash pad. Today, they poured both rinks, and so if you've been out there today, you'll see 2 large slabs of concrete out at the site. And so, really, we are getting to a point where it's starting to look like something. You'll see that we have in the packet the most recent pay app, and included with that is a change order in which we had talked about previously. Because the existing water main size coming from the Mills Field was a different size than they anticipated. I believe it was a 2-inch line. They thought it was a 3, which would have been sufficient. They had to go out to the hydrant out by the street to come in, so it had some additional pipe and some additional sanitary sewer work that had to be done because of the condition of the sanitary sewer in the street. So as what happened is they added more pipe to get out to the hydrant, which was a change in plan. And so you can see the total change order amount there, that $16,705 number for that change that has been completed. And so with that, I guess I can take any questions that you guys have about the pay app, the change order, progress, anything like that. Really the only action we're looking for is the approval of the change order, as the pay app has already been paid through bills.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy. Any comments?
We knew about this.
Yep, we talked about this before.
And so if we don't approve it, do they go take the 4-inch pipe out?
Right.
Well,
Right.
the bump in the road,
You know,
is very bad, so
it's-
they redo that. for them.
It's always interesting because, you know, when engineers come with change orders, most of the time, if we wait on something to get done, it's just going to cost us more. And so generally, we're after the fact approving things in the construction industry. So yes, this has already been installed, and we kind of have to pay them.
Yeah,
So.
and this is the price we talked about, right? This is the price.
Yeah,
that you
yep,
gave
it's
us.
exactly the price we were
So,
talking about.
I mean, I'll make a motion to approve the change order.
All right, we got a motion to approve by Mr. Rushmeyer and a second by Mr. Boder. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Can we still vote non-roll call?
Yeah, because she's
Okay.
absent.
Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Change order is approved. Thanks for the update too, by the way. It's looking great out there. It really is looking good. I don't know if you guys have been out there, but it's looking awesome. Item number D, this is to approve the tobacco policy, or tobacco policy update. And is this you, Katie?
Yeah. That's
Okay,
me.
sorry. I was a little behind on my thing. Katie, please.
This item is specifically in response to our discussion last park board meeting regarding updating or even taking a look at our smoking tobacco policy in our parks. And after hearing the discussion, we're recommending that we adopt some language that not just at our ball fields, but at our other facilities, like our pavilions, our pond hockey rinks, pickleball courts, splash pad, concession stands, Miracle League Field. We have more signage saying tobacco free within the 100 feet. So we're hoping that helps. And then also, and we would get that signage from Crowing Energize. I think they said they had some access to free signage for us to tap into. And then also that we were thinking maybe strategically place more receptacles or purchase more receptacles for cigarette butts to help with the littering issues in our playgrounds. I'm planning on just turning it over to you. We did adjust the policy to reflect what I just said. So that's what's second on my agenda request. It would be the updated red line version of what we would be asking you to approve today. Thank you.
Please, Mr. Rushmeyer.
Katie, how many receptacles are we talking about?
I'm not even sure how many we have in general in our parks.
I don't think there's
We
many
might
at
have
all.
one, maybe two, if that I've ever seen.
And these would be placed in areas outside of these tobacco-free zones?
Yes, yes, like a strategically placed, yes.
I mean, this is what we talked about. What you have here is what we talked about at the last meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to approve. I just don't know how many. I mean, is it 10? Is it 20? 30?
We could start with a small number and see if it makes any impact.
Yeah, maybe one per park, just in high traffic areas.
Or
Is that your motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendation here.
We technically need two, you're looking for two motions here, Katie. One is on the language, the adoption of the language, and the other one is on the receptacles themselves. Is that correct?
And the signage.
Or the signage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put that all in one.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it all up in one motion for approval of both the language, the signage, and the receptacles. The receptacle number being one per park and strategically placed.
And that's something we can budget for
Okay.
too. You know, it's something we can talk about at the end of the meeting here.
All right, we got a motion,
Certainly second that.
and we got a second by Mr. Boder. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Close same sign. There we go. New business. Oh, here it is, guys. You're up. Discussion of Mississippi Landing Trailhead project. And the setup here is coming from Mr. Chansky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the city of Brainerd has officially been awarded $2.85 million from the Environmental Natural Resource Trust Fund by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, or LCCMR. This became official on June 29th when Governor Walz signed the Environmental Natural Resource Policy and Omnibus Bill. At this point, what we're just waiting on is the LCCMR does have to approve our final work plan. It looks like that should be done on Thursday, hopefully. Once that is officially approved, then that money will be available to be spent, or in reality, we spend money, they reimburse us. Right now, we're at a little bit of an awkward position, though, because it was the city council that submitted the LCCMR application. They're the ones that have technically been awarded the money. However, this project is ultimately a city park, which falls under your purview. Also, I will be the project manager for these funds, but obviously working kind of a tag team with engineer Sandy on the actual development of the project, of the park. So, to ensure a smooth development process, Engineer Sandy and Administrator Bergman and I kind of a discussion. What we're recommending is the following, is to first request that the City Council authorize the Park Board to be the managing entity of this project. We think it's best fitting for you to be the managing entity, as it will be ultimately under your purview as a park, and especially right now as you're also going through developing design standards and such, that we want this park, the First City's brand new park, to fit your vision. Also, to develop, second part of this is to develop a project management team comprised of one member of the City Council, 2 members of the Park Board, and 2 members of the Riverfront Committee. The purpose of this project management team is for them to be the technical an analysis group. So when technical questions about this project need to be answered with consultants, a future engineering firm, they're the ones kind of diving in deep and then ultimately making a recommendation for you as a board to approve. The point of this is to take some work off of you as a park board. So every meeting that you're here, you don't get to see my face for 45 minutes to discuss these things. It's more of a 5-minute, here's what was discussed, this is the recommendation. You can hash out a little bit and then hopefully just be able to approve those recommendations. The composition of the project management team is purposeful. One, to keep the city council involved by having a member of the city council, obviously the park board involved, and most importantly, having members of the Riverfront Committee involved, as really this project exists because of the hard work of the Riverfront Committee for the last roughly, I think it's 7 years. Obviously, Don Gorham, John Forster are here to represent that committee, and we want to keep them involved in this process, as this is really their baby. So what we're looking for from you today is really just kind of to have a discussion about this recommendation and then get your support for the recommendation, and then we'll bring these recommendations to the city council on July 19th for their approval. If you approve it, support it tonight, they approve it on the 19th, Paul and I will be back in front of you on the 27th with our first steps of actually getting this project underway.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chansky. All right, gang. Any discussion?
Obviously, this is your career, so you know the ins and outs of this better than we do. I mean, we're just a bunch of volunteer clowns up here, so it makes more sense that, you know, I make a motion that you generally take over and do what you need to do, and we'll vote on it at the 20 whatever August meeting. Next time comes up.
All right.
Yeah, and I think it has, the city council has to approve, right?
The PM, the PMT, the creation of the PMT.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, I think we've stated from the beginning that we want to be, especially if the parks is going to manage that property, that we be involved in design and implementation of things. But with that being said, I don't know that any of us want to be in meetings every week. And, you know, this PMT team makes things run a lot smoother. And if that's what you're looking for from us, I would make a motion to move forward with that, just so it keeps things moving. And
yeah, we used a very similar setup with Memorial. Works fantastic. So, and today we don't need to pick our members from the park board, correct? You're gonna basically bring forward our support of that, and that's what your motion is fashioning.
yeah,
is
well,
our
actually,
support.
I think with Memorial, we did the whole park board.
Yep.
And, you know, it was a lot. And what this is saying is that there's a PMT team that handles some of the nitty gritty of that,
Yep.
but still comes back to the park board, and the park board makes final decisions, correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's my motion, is to move forward with the PMT team.
All right, fantastic. We got a motion to move forward with the staff recommendations on the PMT. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we got a second by Mr. Shipe. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign.
Nice work.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Oh, I'd like to give you guys the opportunity to talk. So so at this time, if you guys would like to come up and express your good news, and if you have anything to say, feel free. You're not obligated though. So.
I just want to say thank you for the city for the opportunity to work with you all, and I look forward to working with the park board. Thank you. That's all I've got to say.
Absolutely, thank you. We're super excited about this, and we're looking forward to working with you guys too. It's going to be a great project.
Say one thing too. Is
Please.
That, you know, this really was a citizens committee, and it's 7 years, and it started at a meeting at the community college, and I don't know, there's 30, 40, maybe even more people there. A lot of input from a lot of different voices, but all the way through the whole process, it really was a citizen committee. But it just shows the effect where you have the citizens joining with the city. And, you know, we came up with the ideas, and we were able to get some funding for getting these ideas reduced to paper, but it was only when the city came in that it finally, we had the expertise to make that final leap. And
Yeah.
that what brought $2.85 million to the community. That's substantial.
Similar to our splash pad.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. All right, number 7B, this is a discussion on the proposed charter amendment. Mrs. Bergman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Park Board. As you know, I've given you updates on what the Charter Commission is working on or has been working on for the past several months. The Charter Commission started out with kind of this phase 1, which were just items that were conflicting with state law. So those items in the charter that conflicted with state law. An ordinance was developed and passed by City Council on phase 1. Phase 2 were those items that were in the charter, but we weren't necessarily doing. I use the example of a health board. The health board was identified in the charter, but the city doesn't have a health board. So the Charter Commission really looked at those items, and an ordinance was passed by the City Council for phase 2. We are now entering into phase 3, and these are probably some more maybe difficult discussions or things on the operations of the city that the Charter Commission may or may not want to consider. At their last meeting, they went through a number of different topics and asked staff to bring back some information so that they could have further discussion. One of which is the Park Board chapter of the charter. In your report, I did provide that chapter for you. Part of the discussion, which Chair Yeager brought up earlier, was for the ease of the city and for a couple of reasons, staff is recommending to the Charter Commission that we remove the first line of Section 3 in Chapter 7. And that section really talks about, it gives the Park Board specific authority to employ and determine compensation for park employees. The reason that we're recommending eliminating that is there are a couple of reasons. First of all, the park employees are city employees. We have several park employees that are in a collective bargaining agreement for the 49ers. And then the city also has established a pay grid for all of our employees across the board. And so there's just some liability there with the park board, maybe deciding one position could be eliminated. So that is our recommendation to the Charter Commission. I did not want to go before the Charter Commission until we first had this discussion with the Park Board. You are fortunate. You actually have 2 Charter Commission members who are also Park Board members. Commissioner Yeager and Commissioner Scheib are also on the Charter Commission. So I'd be happy to hear any comments that you may have as well. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bergman. Any discussion on this? So I'll just jump in and say the part of the charter that really gives the Park Board its power is still existing there, and that is the ability to create our own budget and ultimately the say of what happens in our parks. I don't think that any of us would like to see that go away. I may be speaking, but I think that the real teeth in how the charter is written pertaining our park board being a voluntary entity operating with some degree of independence from the city itself, having the ability to create our own budgets and say what happens in and around our parks is going to stay in there. And I think that I know for myself, I'll be fighting to keep that in there tooth and nail. So I don't see it going anywhere, but if it does, it will not be without a huge fight. So I don't know where you're at on the subject, but that's where we are. So. And as far as the language I just want to say, as far as the language, Jennifer, you spoke very clearly about that. We just don't want to get the city sued because we decide to fire somebody or hire somebody we couldn't or shouldn't have, or decide to do anything that is outside the operation of our HR. Please, Mr. Burton. Ms. Burton.
And also thank you, Mr. Chair. I think those are really important comments. I think the Charter Commission also feels that way. That the role of the Park Board and how it's written in the charter was very intentional. And that's to have a park board that oversees the operations in our parks. So I think, and that's why you see in the charter and the recommendation from staff really is just the elimination of the employees line.
Thank you. Mr. Scheib, sorry.
I'm sorry. Is this the direction of the new Public Works Department, or is this is something that would have been looked at anyway? Because the Park Board the park staff was city employees prior to this change anyway, correct? So this is something that was coming down the chute regardless. Am I correct in that?
So what happens in the charter is it really just blurs the line of authority. So it kind of makes things complicated and real confusing in employment law world. So it isn't just because of the public works department starting, it's really been an issue for a while. Performance evaluations, should the park board be doing them? Or who should be doing that for their staff? Do we follow what the city does? And it just makes it complicated to have you overseeing those things separately. And that's what the intent is, to make it cleaner, to make it so that they're, like Jennifer said, reducing any kind of liability and just making it much easier for staff to know who we should be going to, how things should be handled. And there is no confusion on the part of the employees either.
True. So in retrospect, it's right in line with our pay grade, Tim.
I agree.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Now we get time and a half.
The level of work is on par with pay.
All right.
Of this board, sorry.
was my effort.
Yes.
Well, I just seen discussion. Is there something that we need to, I didn't see a recommended
I got you here.
motion.
Mr. Shipe has a comment first here, real quick.
Just the one thing that jumps out now that I'm looking at this, even though I have looked at it. The new first sentence in section 3, it mentions soliciting and training volunteers. Is that something the park board should still be doing, or is that something the city has a more general process for?
When I looked at it, I thought Katie's still going to be getting volunteers for your recreation programs. So I guess I thought of that portion. I don't know if it should come out or not. Maybe as staff we can have a different suggestion, but looking around the table, I think it's probably okay to stay in there.
Cool, awesome.
Okay.
Mr. Rushmeyer, back to you, sir. Anything?
No, other than, back to my question, it's just, I just see a recommended action as discussion. I mean, do we need a motion on this?
Please, Katie.
I just have a quick question. Sorry, Chris. Does this change the process of approving employees then? It goes to city council now at all?
Yes, it would. So if this is finally approved by the Charter Commission and the City Council approves this modified charter, then you would no longer need to approve new hires or anything like that. That would be totally done through the council packet. Staff can still inform you if you would like them to. It makes it clear who has that authority to make that approval.
And I believe a while back, we did make a motion to give you guys the ability to make new hires without bringing those specifically to us, especially regarding volunteers and some of our short hour type staff. So it's kind of a continuation of that same path. Park Board has the vision, overall goals of what to achieve. City and City Council will help us create or cultivate the staff to do that without us, hand picking each person and training them in, so. Correct? Is that right? Okay. So do you want a motion, Jennifer? I can present it too. I mean, it's coming up. It's gonna come up in the charter, so.
And I don't think a motion is necessary. Again, just out of respect for the park board, I just wanted to make sure that you heard it before it got brought to the charter commission.
Thanks for the respect.
Which is Thursday, I believe. Is it tomorrow?
Actually, we'll see you tomorrow night.
It is tomorrow, yeah. Yeah, it's, they're just lined up. Very good. We're continuing on. Item 7B, discussion on the, 7C, they approve the SPRA grant application submission for Lum Park. This is Mr. Sandy.
Yeah, so this is revolves around Lum Park Road, which kind of falls a little bit. I wanted to bring this forward to you because it's one of these areas that I kind of cross over in my normal job compared to what we do at the park level. So Alderman O'Day, who was a city council member, brought this grant opportunity forward. It has to do with Lum Park Road in its current condition. SPRA is a grant application through the state park road account that we can use to improve access to public waterways, which Lum Park Road is. So this is the main access into Lum Park. We approached Widseth, who the original email came from, to get a proposal to fill out an application on the city's behalf. What this would entail is basically a reconstruction of Lum Park Road into kind of a vision of maybe a more walkable area. The on-street parking isn't really utilized on Lum Park Road, so is what this is. It's kind of it's going to be a joint project between the engineering department, the city council, and the park board on what we kind of want the vision of this road to be. And how we start is filling out this application. So the city council already approved this funding and this contract, and it will come out of our construction fund since it is in a public right-of-way. And so with that, it's more of an FYI of what's kind of to come. We'll be submitting an application to get funded for a reconstruction project. We'll be hearing some from WIDSEF on potential designs of the street, multi-use trail, anything that we can include with that funding. And from there, we can present that to the park board and to the city council and kind of get a consensus on what Lum Park Road looks like and get a project funded from this account instead of paying for it out of our construction fund. So that's kind of the overall goal of this. We figured Lum Park Road was the road most in need of something, and this is a good opportunity to get it funded. So if there's any questions, I can answer them now.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy. Any questions?
What part of the road does it entail? All the way up down to the lake? Does it also include the upper portion of the park that leads to the dead end and the campground area?
It would just be specifically the public water access, which would be the road itself. So starting at Highway 210, going by the parks office, and going where the yellow curb is painted down to the boat landing. That would be the sole focus of this. For the grant money purposes, now that doesn't preclude us from working with my staff and with Seth to add other amenities that might not be funded by the grant, but we could include as a public works project and fund it out of the construction fund. For example, there was talk about, this program is specifically funded for the street reconstruction and things like that, trees and other things, amenities that we might not be able to fund with this. We could have a separate line item column that's basically, trees or other ADA upgrades or, a mill and overlay on the parking lots or whatever it is. We can have a column that's specifically funded by the SPRA grant, and then any other things that we see come up during this process with WIDSEF, we can add those on as additional and fund them out of our construction fund.
Katie, please.
Is this grant a yearly grant?
No, this is
only special?
it's a apply for it and
Okay.
hope to receive it.
I was gonna say the Mississippi River landing. That
Evergreen would be another one.
would be a really good option also to consider. That
Down below
road's
the
dirt.
cemetery?
Right.
Yeah.
That one is going to take a lot more engineering involved in that because, it's in a floodplain and it needs to be built up substantially. It's going to have to be evaluated for drainage, culverts, and if we're going with tar, we're going to have to look at any kind of subgrade improvements because the subgrade that's there is most likely not going to handle any kind of traffic with a paved surface. So it could be considered in the future. I don't know how much of this grant could fund that. That would be a little gray to me, so.
Any other questions? I have a question. I may not know this, but a lot of grants have kind of point systems set up that as you apply for them, you acquire points, and then that ranks what your likelihood is to receive that grant. Do we have just a guess on what we think our likelihood might be to have success with this grant? We're spending $2,300, and my question is, do we have a 5% chance of getting this or a 90% chance of getting this? Is there anybody that we know that can answer that, or at least take a stab at it? We've applied for grants in the past, and
I don't know that this grant program is that there's a lot of people applying for it or is that competitive. I think with the use and the condition of the road right now, I think we have a fairly good likelihood of getting funded. Just from the public purpose. It's a DNR boat landing. It is directly aligns with what this program is looking for in upgrading public facilities, access to water in a city. I mean, I think it aligns pretty well. So in my opinion, I think it's going to be a good opportunity. And I think, I can't put a number to it, but talking with Dave Reese, who's the engineer with WIDSEF that we walked through the project, he seemed to think too that it would be a fairly good chance of success of getting at least a portion of it funded, if not all of it.
Oh, that's good enough for me.
Correct. And there again, with WITS's name on there, obviously they're gonna know we mean business with the grant we're looking for.
Agreed.
I mean, I could draw like a tic-tac-toe image, but it's not gonna be nearly like what WITS can do, so. That, my grant wouldn't stand up as nearly good chance as yours will.
All right, any other discussion before we look for a motion here? All right, very good. I'm looking for a motion to either approve the grant application or not submit the grant application, one or the other.
So moved to move it.
So moved to apply.
Seconded.
And we have a second by Mr. Shipe. You got that, Kim? Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have one. So the $2,300, is that coming out of our funds?
No, it's a public right of way, so it's
Right,
coming out.
That's what I thought
Yep.
this was saying, so. Yeah,
That's in my account.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And there you go. Got your grant. We'll hope for success.
Yes.
I believe Mr. Sandy said it was 98%.
Right.
What's the potential dollar figure that, if it was a full amount?
I couldn't even shoot it. We just went out there and
$2,400.
walked around a little bit, so that'll come with time.
Yeah, we get a 2,100 back.
Yeah.
2,470, okay. Item number D, this is a discussion of our heat cancellation policy. Katie, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is coming to you today, obviously postponed a month or so when we were having the 105-degree weather. Some background on the issue is that I was having several individuals passing out at the fields. It was actually pretty scary. We were kind of banking on nurses being around to help. And that's why I'm bringing it to your attention today is we do have a cancellation policy for cold weather in the summer, but we haven't really established a cancellation policy for hot weather. And at what point do we want to get involved? It's with athletes, you need to hydrate. We shouldn't have to tell them you need to hydrate, but at what point should we be looking out for their safety and thinking just putting it at a rain date or rescheduling the game is the smarter option? So what we're presenting is if it's 100 degrees or hotter at game start, that for the sports that we facilitate, adult sports at this time, maybe special events, that we would postpone those games to a later date. And that'd be at game start, so 6 p.m. roughly. So that is what we're recommending. Looking for some discussion on it. If you guys have any other ideas or what we should go with, I'm all ears.
Mr. Boder, please.
If the first game was canceled at 6 o'clock, that includes all
It would
games?
it would most likely be all of them. That's just a good streamlined way of doing it.
Mr. Rushmeyer?
Do we have a number? How many people has this happened to?
It was at least 4.
Was it in adult programs? Or
Adult.
Youth programs?
It was not youth. I actually talking to community ed and YMCA, they did not have any kids passing out. It was all adults. And it wasn't, and I know a lot of you guys are thinking it's because of the liquor, whatever, but some of these individuals hadn't even been drinking, so.
Was it, did these people have health
Pre-existing? There was
Prior?
one individual with diabetes, but it's happening to individuals that work outside all day long, and then they come to adult softball, and it's just too much.
I'm a little leery to do this, just for the fact that the repercussions from, if this was happening in youth programs, I'd be a lot quicker to jump on board, but, and I'm not saying that it's not real, and unfortunately, you know, if we're canceling 6 games or 9 games at 6 o'clock, how easily are those games made up?
Each season we put 2 weeks of rain dates available. So whether it rains or, in our case, no rain, if we don't use them, we move the end of season tournament up.
Did we get requests from people for us to look at our heat
Yes.
cancellation policy?
They said it should be in discussion. A lot of them were like, at what point are you guys going to cancel because of heat? And I was like, I don't know. We don't have anything stating such. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
Was it our umpires and workers and that who were asking, or was it just more general people?
Workers included. My concession stand worker, you know, is a young adult, and it was putting like a lot of stress on her because, you know, if I'm out somewhere else, I'm like, did you call an ambulance? Like, what's like doing all the accident reports, and it gets even hotter in the concession stand than it is outside. So, with all the machines in there. So she was also like, at what point are we gonna start canceling? Because I can't work in this. So.
But you're 100% correct. It was fortunate for us that we have plenty of first responders slash male and female nurses that are at the parks quite often that kind of took over and helped out.
You were there?
For 2 of them, yes.
Yeah.
How did they assist?
Just telling us about, don't know how to do it, you know, to help out the person with ice packs and Gatorade and what else we could find. Just recommendations for people like myself that, you know, I've been involved with the parks for, you know, 25 years, but I don't know exactly how a heat stroke looks like. And people that are trained for that, it's nice to have them around if they're needed. And they were just there, you know, because they were having watching their brother-in-law play ball or whatever it might have been. So we were fortunate that worked out that way, without having to call an ambulance.
And I know it's real. I mean, and I'm, you know, been involved with sports and I'm actually an RN and know that it's real and that it can sneak up on somebody quite quickly. And I just, I don't know, I'm kind of torn on it. But the other point of it is I'd hate to have somebody drop and not come out of it and then have someone come back and say, well, you guys should have had a heat cancellation policy. But
yeah, Mr. Shipe, please.
I think the value is just in like having a lightning policy for softball, right? It takes some of the contention out of it. It's like, oh, you're soft because you don't want to play in this heat. It's like, well, it's not safe for everyone. And so having some kind of limit, I think is a really good idea, just to have everyone play by the same rules.
And I think sorry, Mr. Sandy.
I was just say on that note, you know, there's not many days
That's what I was gonna say.
that were over 100, especially at like 6. You know, I think, you know, we're talking about obviously this year was different. We had a very hot streak there, and if we're talking days, I mean, and we also have to talk a little bit about is it ambient or is it heat index, because that's 2 different things too. So, you know, if it's ambient temp, you know, that gives us a little more flexibility too, because obviously it could be 94 with a heat index and be, you know, so that should come into this discussion, but we're talking about a very few number of days. And so
Agreed.
It's not like,
Yeah, we put this in place. It's probably will have limited effect, and a lot of them do use the heat index. I know that it's temperature plus humidity, and they come up with some metric there.
I don't know if it's 100 temp plus heat index, or if it's 105 temperature plus heat index, or what that is, because that usually would equate to about 95-degree day with relatively high humidity, that would bring you up to that 105 or higher.
And there's no guarantee that putting this in place will eliminate that anyways, but it might take out that real severe peak of 4 people tipping over in the span of a couple days or whatever. But any other discussion on this? Okay, so the motion or the recommendation would be to have staff kind of look at or create a what a heat cancellation policy might look like and bring it back to us before it gets too hot. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
But is that right?
Sure.
You don't have one ready to present at this
No.
point?
So it would be rescheduled games for a makeup date, and I would assume if able, because then you throw in some rain days and sometimes you're just not able to make them all up. And
The only other thing we could do here, guys, if we want to save a month's of time, is we could give staff the direction to go ahead and draft one and to put it into place without us having to take a look at it again.
Yeah.
Which would save us a month, well, 2 weeks, because we're hypothetically going to meet on a budget, but
But correct, I mean, they're paid for their position, you may as well use their position.
it's up to you guys.
I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, we're good either way, so.
Something that makes sense, obviously.
65.
65. We cancel all games.
All right, we're going to need a motion on that, or something to that effect. Somebody want to wordsmith or fashion something up for us?
I'm not a wordsmith, but I'll make a motion that we allow the staff to come up with their own idea as far as cancellation of heat index, whether it's temperature, ambient temperature, or actual Fahrenheit temperature. I would make sure that they are using their judgment as well to make sure that if they come up with a policy for it, bring it back to us next month. Otherwise, go ahead and get started with their own demeanor.
All right. So we can go ahead and let them put it in place. We can always change it, so.
We'll just report back on
Yep.
it, just a quick blurb.
All right, we got a motion to put a policy, have direct staff to put a policy in place. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I got a second by Mr. Rushmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, we're getting there, guys. We're almost there. Item E, discussion of the 30-year parks capital plan. Mr. Sandy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to try to keep this fairly short tonight because it's a lot of information, and I just wanted, I think the goal was to get this in front of you guys, to look at it, digest it, move things around as you see fit. I think, if you go down to kind of the last spreadsheet, that's like the overall 30-year summary, or even the 10-year summary of the total costs. Our first years are pretty heavy, and I think Kevin and I kind of realized that when we were putting this together, that we might have a few heavy years. You look at those red numbers at the bottom under the 10-year overall summary. Lori, if you want to scroll down a little bit, those numbers get pretty big the first few years, but then they start tapering off. And so we have a lot of ability to kind of spread this out as we see. But so going through these, the first page, Lori, if you want to go back under the equipment, what I did with this, and I sat down with Troy, we did a inventory of all the existing capital equipment that we have that would require us to budget for. And we looked at how old it was right now and when we see this being replaced, and then we formulated this. This is something I did for our street department. And it gets our equipment replaced on a cycle. So, for example, you look at our field groomers, a 10-year cycle, and that is in there every 10 years. So every 10 years, we're swapping a field groomer. A mower, for example, 72-inch Toro mower every 7 years. And with that, and with doing this, we're not only going to get consistency and have less repairs on our equipment, but we're also specifying that we want to make sure that we're buying the same type of equipment. So I'm a big proponent of, like in the street department, once again, of buying the same type of truck. For example, a plow truck, we've been going with Max nowadays. That not only helps us from a maintenance end, we're buying parts for multiple machines now. Our mechanics know how to work on them. They're the same type of mower, they're the same type of equipment. We can buy multiple oil filters, multiple, types of oil, everything. Just the more consistent we are with what we buy and what the guys like, the better off we are. And we get them on a cycle of replacement and show 30 years down the line of what we're replacing. That not only helps us plan, but it helps the city council to see that we have a plan put in place for equipment replacement, park upgrades, whatever it is. So that's the equipment portion. Fairly, lighter cost when you look at the overall budget, but if you start looking at spreading these over, you don't have those peaks and valleys, and that's where you can kind of massage the plan to move costs around and make sure we don't see a $600,000 year and then we're down to $50,000 the next year. We can really start to massage it and move projects around to make sure that we're submitting a consistent budget every year. And that's something that me and Kevin really wanted to focus on, is submitting something really consistent. The next one, upgrades all parks in the purple here. These are what Kevin and I considered as that $75,000 that we set aside each year for park upgrades and beautification. This is just a set dollar amount that we want to put into our parks every year for these items. So for example, we have the tree replacements. You guys had already planned to put $25,000 a year for planting trees in our parks. Picnic tables, grilling stations, trash cans, that kind of thing. A picnic table's $1,000. You buy 15 picnic tables and swap them out. The real nice ones, not the wooden ones, you're gonna be at that already. So this just gets us on a replacement program. Obviously, we might not need to do this for 30 years. At some point in the future, you might change that out for something. We had a long discussion earlier this year about weed and feed program. We did some pricing with some contractors, kind of picked the parks we thought were the most in need of, the real high-used green space parks. Gregory, Triangle, Lum Park around the pavilions, our fields, that kind of thing. And this gets us into a large-scale weed and feed program for about $25,000 a year. That's just a standard all the way across. We thought a bench installation program. So a lot of our parks have sidewalks, trails, amenities that people walk, and we don't have many benches. You put $5,000 a year into benches, you're going to see vast improvements very quickly. ADA upgrades, this is one that Kevin and I talked about a little bit at our meeting. We have a lot of concrete sidewalks, a lot of pedestrian ramps, a lot of broken curb, a lot of things in our parks that need to get replaced. And $25,000, while it seems like a lot, it doesn't get you very far in the world of ADA. You can expect probably $5,000 to $6,000 per ramp. And so if you get 4 ramps a year out of this $25,000, it's going to be a good year. This would replace, trippers, any ramps, curb, just any concrete or ADA hazards that we have in our parks. And that's just another straight item that we have plugged in each year. Sign replacements, another thing that we were just talking about with the cigarette thing. This could be that pool that we do cigarette receptacles, signs, any, handicap signs, park signs or anything like that. Just budget a straight $5,000 a year so that we can just go through each park and look at what our most needs are for signs in general. Security cameras, I worked with Sean Strong on this. We just priced out a new security camera system. They run about $6,500 to be consistent with the ones we have in Gregory right now, the newest ones. That's what we'll be installing at Memorial Park, is a $6,500 system. And they're about an 8-year replacement cycle. And so what we're figuring is we'll have about 8 parks that have a camera in it. That'll be Gregory, Memorial, probably 2 locations at Memorial, the softball and something that covers Mills Field, most likely at the Gregory or the pavilion there. You have Rotary or Kiwanis, Under the Bridge, JC's. There's a couple more, but so that basically gets us on an 8-year replacement cycle, 1 per year, 1 system. So this first year we would be adding systems, and then once we get 8 years out, Gregory would be the first one to get replaced. And then the other thing that came up, appliances at all of our concession stands. They are about 20 years old each. We actually went and replaced 2 of them this year at Memorial. This $10,000 will replace all of them in all of our parks every 10 years. So we're going 10,000 in 22, and then 10 years down the road in 32, we plug another 10,000 in to keep those being swapped out. They're an important part of our concession stands, and we feel that we'll need them even if we have concessions or not in the future. Just if people want to use our stands on their own, you're going to need appliances. Once you get past that part, you get into the actual improvements at parks. Kevin and I tried to prioritize these the best we could from the park surveys that we had. You'll notice there's some areas in yellow here, and it's mostly related to parking lot surfacing and maintenance, and I was looking for a little more direction from the board on what parks you find are the most important to add pavement to. So right now, already in your budget, you had Buffalo Hills Park getting paved in 23, and that's the gravel area, and then the resurfacing of the Memorial Park field, or the Memorial Park parking lot next year. From there, we have Buster Dog Park, you have Gregory, that's already paved to a point where we would just be replacing what we have. Rotary came up in discussions. What do we want to see in the future for pavement? Pavement's expensive. That's going to start jacking up our yearly costs. I just wanted to see what the thought was. You know, we have JCs, you have a large area there. If we add pavement, that is going to be an annualized cost once again of maintaining, replacing. So I think we need to be strategic on what we're paving so that we don't get in over our heads. But yet also realizing that paving is easier to maintain from snow removal, from not having to grade it, add gravel, all those items that come with that. So I think we need to be strategic when we're thinking about what we're going to add. We already had 2 we were going to add already, and maybe that's a discussion for next year. We're going to do, Memorial next year, and then 23 we got Buffalo Hills. That's, I think right now, a good direction. Then we should start talking about those other areas that I was talking about. So basically, under each one of these parks, we identified the equipment, which is playgrounds, scoreboards. There's a lot more rows here that don't have items. I hid those so you didn't get overwhelmed because we have a lot more equipment than what you're going to see right here. We tried to identify the items that are in the most need of maintenance right now. A lot of them have to do with our existing bathroom facilities. You look at Kiwanis, Lum Park, that kind of thing. We plugged in dollar amounts. For example, in JC's in 2023, you'll see a $75,000 number for a concession, warming house, restroom, and that is basically a remodel, facade upgrade, new roof on that building. You'll also see at JC's a new pavilion or an upgrade to the existing pavilion. I think the first project that we were going to attack was Kiwanis. That was probably the most important one to look at right now. Scroll down a little bit, Lori. So right here in 22, we have the gazebo upgrade. We have a restroom picnic shelter upgrade, and we have a picnic shelter facade roof upgrade.
For the pavilion, yep. Mm-hmm.
And these are pretty standard numbers that we plugged in. If we had a structure that we were going to upgrade, we plugged in the 75,000. If we had a pavilion, it was the 20. If we had a smaller pavilion, we plugged in 10 as starting points. Obviously, as these projects develop, we're going to be going into the budget season. We're going to be looking at our planned buildings that year, starting like right now, and we're going to start developing a scope of what we need to do in that building. And from that scope, we'll be able to price it out and modify these numbers. I think the direction that I've gotten from the city council is it's not necessarily the number they're focused in on. It's having a plan and knowing what you're doing each year, so that each year when you come to this plan, you see in 2023, we want to work in Lone Park on Pavilion 1 and Pavilion 2, you can start scoping that project out in the 6 months prior, making sure you know what you're going to spend, and submit your capital budget and modify that $20,000 number to what it actually is going to cost. So I think we're being conservative right now. We're trying to, have enough money or enough plan in place so that we can, if the costs come in at 65, we're going to be, we'll just lower our budget request to 65 for that year. So really, this is what we have put together. Like I said, there's a lot of hidden columns here, and I can send you the whole thing. We tried to do an inventory of every park and all the equipment and things we have. It just gets overwhelming to look at it all at once. We're trying to really focus on the buildings, the pavilions, the playground equipment, the stuff that the public really uses. Obviously the bleachers and the scoreboards and the other things will come into play as we move down the road and start refining this plan more and more, but I think this is a good starting point. So with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in here real quick. Paul and I have worked, mostly Paul, but we've been working on this for quite some time. The idea was to get this into your guys' hands so that you could look at where, at least preliminarily, we've put the money, the projects that we put it park by park as well as by total. One of the things that to me is kind of disappointing about this is as you guys read through this, it's almost all deferred maintenance, guys. Our budget is being eaten up. In fact, we're going to be turning in budgets to the city that's higher than what we've turned in the past. And there's almost no new projects on here. So there's no new ball fields, there's no skate parks, this is just to maintain our empire, so to speak. So it's just, the past and where we've been in the past, we've really kind of fallen behind on that. We've all witnessed that. We all know what that looks like. What's in front of you really just is a forward-thinking process to get us just back to maintaining what we have. So I'm going to ask you guys to all look at it and say, hey, do we want to add in some ambitions for expansions, for adding something new, building a new something here or something there? Because really none of that's in here. So.
And I think we have to, but I think this is a great base for what's needed. And but for instance, I think of Lone Park and some of the things that could be done there, especially things that could turn around and be used for profits, financial gains, beautifying the park, but adding some things. I just look at that little campground that was up in there this weekend. Actually watched the ski loons doing their thing. But, and just looking at the campground full, and I'm thinking, and that's just such a small little area, and, some trees and some additional roads down along some areas and some fence, and I'm looking at it and thinking, wow, that number could be a lot higher, and we could have a lot more people here, and boy, if we had a nice beach down here, people would really want to come even more so. And just looking at the potential for that park alone, and even Kiwanis, we're talking about putting a new building in there, but then I'm going back and thinking, well, wait a minute, is that park really what we want it to look like? Is there potential to move the road to the Boone Lake side and extend that park over to the river, and especially what's going on upriver of there, or downriver, however you want to look at it, but I guess it would be upriver. And so those are the other things that I'm thinking, when are we going to have these discussions, because these parks have potential to offer more. With that being said, I know that all costs money.
The master plan we talked about, I think,
all costs money, and
yeah, you notice I left. You want to scroll up there, Lori?
If you go up to the top, you'll see we've got
Yeah, there's a one right here, master plan, and there's a zeros on it right now, but if we really want to start visioning that, that's a number we can plug in there and put a dollar amount to it for a full master plan of all of our parks. And maybe we save up for it. Maybe we start putting in $5,000 a year just to start thinking about it, and then once we get enough, money saved up, we can really pull the trigger on it. Yeah, like the chair said, this is strictly getting the infrastructure and buildings and pavilions we have looking nice, functioning well.
Oh, that's good. That's a lot of work. Much appreciated.
So I guess what I'm gonna ask the board to do is to look at this over the next 2 weeks. We'd like to get back together with a budget meeting. We were thinking in 2 weeks. Is that right, Mr. Sandy?
Yeah, that would be at the park board meeting.
With your guys' recommendations on where to shuffle money to, from, steal from there, put it to here, add this in, take this away, because I'd like to be able to present this to the, as we're nearing our budget time coming up in September. I'd like to kind of have us knowing what we want to do for not only this year, but as, in years going forward. So I'd like to ask you guys to just look at this and talk about what you think is missing, what is too much money, what's not enough, all of that, so.
If you want, we can print these off for you at City Hall. You can see in the packet what we did was we broke each park out. So you have a sheet on each park. You can concentrate on each park, or if you want to look at the overall, on a 30-year scale, that's the last sheet here, which is very small and very hard to read, that one. Or you can do the 10-year scale. 30 years is hard to look out. You can see the numbers get very sparse down here. But, if that's the way, we can always print this stuff off for you guys so you can take notes instead of having to look at it on a computer if you don't know how to use Excel. But each park is also broken out.
And that's what I find the most helpful is park by park. You can look at each park and see what's slated to be done there for work, or what's missing, or. Yeah, this is all of us together making these decisions, so I want us to all participate and come back with input, and then we can shuffle some money around.
And there again, it's like Troy was saying, everything's expensive.
Yeah.
We all have visions to do things, and like Paul was saying, put $5,000 a year. Why not 50,000 a year? Because 5,000 really is nothing. I mean, it's a couple of new ashtrays and they're cigarette dispensers. So, but I mean, is it going to be wrong for us to shoot for a larger number, and then see if the city council approves it?
I say we shoot for a consistent number that we think will get us to a point that we're proud of in 5 to 10 years.
I agree.
A consistent budget number, whatever that is, to upgrade our facilities in all of our parks and get things back up, to where we feel they should be without any additions. Just look at that first and see what that number comes out to and try to spread it out and even it out over those 10 years. So we're coming to the council with a consistent, if it's $300,000 a year, we're coming and saying we need 300,000, here's our plan, here's our park, here's our project. Next year, here's our plan, here's our park, here's our project. And if we have a consistent number, so we don't have, what we're really trying to do from an overall city perspective is get rid of the ebbs and the flows, the big spikes in the budget, and then the really small years.
Which is what we've had in the past.
Yeah, which is what we've had. You've seen the city council go minus 5% on the levy, and then the next year they got a 7% tax increase, and then they go down again and they go up because our expenditures were just like this. We want to just even that out, and so the citizens of Brainerd, they could expect a 0, 1, or 2% increase a year like inflation, and we're doing the things that we want to do still and have an even budget.
Great start. You guys open to meeting in 2 weeks then? Come back with some input on this?
Well, we're going to have a regular.
We already got a meeting, yeah.
Yep, so we can talk about it again and just have a standing item.
Yeah, I think it should be a standing item. We're at July already, and I'm going to be presenting this in September, so.
Yes, we're back here on the 27th, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's 2 weeks.
Yep. Are you guys okay with the homework, or do you feel like you need more time? Good?
Awful busy.
Okay, Boater. All right, so with that, we're going to continue, unless there's something else, anybody? If not, we'll continue on to our public forum, which we've already done. So public forum's done. City admin, she left. We have our city engineer and our rec coordinator report, item number 10. Who wants to go first? 1, 2, 3, nod it. Katie's got it.
I'll go. Thank you.
I'll try and be very quick. So recreation update, we did end up canceling the 4th of July softball tournament we were going to put on. It was going to be called the Stars and Stripes, but not enough teams signed up. This one's for Hop was canceled this year, which was kind of a heartbreaker for a lot of people. I attached his press release so you guys can read through that and the future of that tournament, or maybe something different in the future. We already talked about the heat stroke, exhaustion, that category, so we're good there. Community Ed, YMCA, I did attach their second quarter reports, so you can just view those. The numbers look good. I think once we have finished everything, their playoffs, everything concludes, I can look a little deeper into it and have a little more discussion with them on how everything went on their side and how we can make it work in the future. And then Brainerd Baxter Baseball Association update, 3 successful weekends for them. So concessions, we've been doing pretty well selling concessions. For those tournaments, I believe we've actually we invoiced them for what we agreed upon, so that's all hopefully in the works. Is there anything additional, Troy, you wanted to add to the Brainerd Baxter Baseball Association?
No, just that you guys have been fantastic, in all of you, in meeting with us and making sure that things have ran smoothly. And they have. We've gotten a lot of input. I just talked to the MIAS program director, Dawson Blank, this morning about we were talking about the 15U tournament coming up this weekend. And, you know, this is the top guy in their organization down in the metro. And they've heard nothing but great things about how these tournaments have been ran, especially knowing that this has been, you know, a change of hands and some issues. For instance, this weekend, BHS had taken a stance of charging to run concessions and not sharing any profits. And we were like, wait a minute, we don't want to pay you to run concessions and then not have a share in the. But I think this was produced during the COVID during last year, and the school district has said that they're willing to work moving forward on this, and they kind of go away from that. And so great partnership with what's happened here with Baxter. Even Brainerd School District had adopted what the Brainerd decision was as far as charging for tournament fees. So they're all kind of in line, Brainerd, Baxter, and the school district. CLC went as far as to say, we're not charging you at all. So we turned around and said, we're not charging you to be in the tournament this weekend, which they get a free, we gave them a freebie on that. It's our own VFW team. It was only $150, but we made a motion at our meeting last night to say we're not requiring them to pay that gate fee. And so partnerships are growing, and part of our discussion last night was, wow, where can this go? And it's, you know, we had 2 fields during majority of these tournaments, at the Brainerd tournaments, not being used. And, you know, the sky's the limit. We paid umpires $50 a game. So we ended up, and we sold t-shirts. So we ended up kind of coming out about where things have come out in the past for these. But we're looking at that and saying, wow, we can, between Baxter and Brainerd, we can more than double the amount of teams that come into this area.
Awesome.
And then start looking at not just the Cragans, but the other resorts, the other hotels in the area, and start partnering with them and really turn this thing on. I mean, we're talking, and Myas is like, wow, this 15U tournament, this could really be a huge thing as well. This year it's only a 19. Normally it's 32 to 36, but they're even looking at, hey, we want to come up and talk with you guys, your partners, and say, you know, how can we have special events during these tournaments and really crank this thing up. And so all good, fun, exciting stuff. And And there's more, and I think the other part is that we talked about meeting at the end of the season, especially with community ed as well, with those programs. And we had a lot of input in our board meeting last night to talk about how we could continue to, how this could look even more so in the future. So great stuff. You guys have been top notch. Much appreciated.
Well done to the board though, too, I mean, that's cool.
Huh?
That's very well done to you guys on the board, I mean, that's putting all together, all three different entities.
It was tough. I guarantee you, I mean, the time spent by myself and Steve Hansen, trying to incorporate all this into, with all the other entities. Tony did this for years, and, it's been him and I, and then a bunch of board members, jumping on board, and we made sure we had several people at each park and, to handle any situation, and, it went well.
Well done.
Okay, just a couple more items. So just an update on the grant for the water bottle filler. Water bottle filling station has been installed at Gregory Park, so it's on the seating side of the pavilion there in Gregory Park. It's in between, I think there's 2 doors. It's in between those 2 doors by the kiosk there, so people can enjoy the kiosk while they're filling up their water bottle. And we're in the process of getting a plaque made. Brainerd Games obviously being front center, but we're also looking at potentially just in smaller font, Crowing Energized and Community Action also being on the plaque in some form. And that's already been in discussion, and Kara's totally fine with that. So, Brainerd Games is completely fine with that. And then we'll be in the works of doing kind of a kickoff Rethink Your Drink community-wide grand opening event. It's still in the works, but that's down the road. And the water bottles, they kind of look like this, the starter ones. So they're really nice quality water bottles that we'll be giving away for free at the grand opening. So one bribe to get there. And then the last thing, Jesse, the communications intern, is working kind of with myself and Jennifer Bergman and a lot of other entities and organizing a Sesquicentennial Bash, September 25th. So that'll be in Gregory Park, and just some of the things that she's already started looking into is having a bouncy house there, kids maker space run by BPS, pickleball tutorials, basketball games, lightning horse run by Brainerd High School basketball athletes, fish tanks run by the DNR, similar to our fishing clinic where they do like fish identification, have hands-on, here's a turtle, that type of stuff. Performances, 2 songs from Paul Bunyan, the musical, and then another group, Midway Games, Outback Trail horse rides, Brainerd-themed coloring, word search, crosswords, yard games, chalk, and then lunch, we're looking at a caterer of some sort, and then a City of Brainerd info booth and activity that's history related. So a lot of things going on in Gregory Park that day.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Mr. Sandy.
All right, my side. Well, the first item, this report was from for the meeting we were supposed to have. And so disregard the first one with the capital budget. We just went over that. Park design standards, we had originally agreed to do August 10th at 4 to 6, and I'm just making sure that still works for everyone. We'll have a meeting in 2 weeks, and then we'll have another meeting, which would be a month, which would be August 10th. That's when we would bring in Mike to come in and see what they've done. And basically, I think at that point, we'll have a draft prepared, Mike. I think we talked about that. And we'll also talk about the status of the Lum Park Master Plan a little bit with that meeting. So put that on your calendars and be there or be square. And finally, with that, just our normal maintenance tasks from that's already 2 weeks old. So that is really all I have.
That August 10th meeting, would that be in here then?
Yes. Yep.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
one thing? Do either of you know anything about, last I talked to Troy, he was working on a sign for Jonesy for JC's Park to go underneath the scoreboard, any progress on that? Because what I want to do is I want to get a hold of the dispatch, and I want to be able to reach out to some of his alma mater, if you will, and make sure that there's people around when we dedicate that field to him, so.
Yeah, I do. So Troy's been working on both the signs for Don Duda also, that was moved from Memorial over to Bain. And so he's making them consistent, just getting both signs made at the same time. I don't know where they're at. I know the sign business, we've been waiting for street signs for like 2.5 months. And so I think they're just really behind. And so, yeah, I'll let you know, Troy, as soon as I hear when the completion date is, so we can schedule something.
Real quick, did you want that to be a community event where we invite the community to that?
I'd like it to be.
Okay.
I think it should be, and, you know, I'm gonna reach out to the ball community as well, and, but, you know, there's some people that he's been around, even, so for instance, I don't know if I shared this with our one tournament that we had, I brought him to 2 of the tournaments, just to kind of sit around and, take it in, and while at the one tournament at JC's, we had a coach from Blaine approach me when I was just watching the game and said, "Is that Jonesy over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "My 2 sons are at home having a graduation party today that I couldn't be to, and Jonesy accompanied us to Cooperstown, and they just think the world of this guy. Do you think he'd allow me to come over and video him, and he could say congratulations to my 2 boys? They just love."
Wow.
And so it was, you know, so he's touched people outside of this community as well, and so absolutely, I think we should try to make it as much a community event as possible.
Okay.
Great.
We'll have to bring a lot of Kleenex for him, probably, but that's okay.
Mike, do you need the floor at all? Nope, okay. Sitting here patiently, I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing here?
He wanted to hear us talk about money.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it. Spreadsheets, I love them.
Spreadsheets.
okay, yeah, well, we got a few. All right, one last chance for anybody here on the board who wants to add anything, throw anything out there?
Welcome, Andrew.
Comments? Yeah, do we need to swear him in?
I think so.
I don't have the oath.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm guessing on the 27th.
yeah, we could do it. We can come up with our own oath.
yeah.
All rise.
All right.
Need to appoint the VP too, so.
Yeah, I don't know if we did that or not, but
Apparently the
We did
VP
Dale Parks, but
was
then
Dale
we
Parks is what they thought. I thought it was,
Yeah, would've
okay, okay.
Was it Dale?
I thought we redid this and gave it to Kara, but.
I thought she was too. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Kara was the outgoing.
She was the outgoing
Yeah.
president,
It was Dale.
so I would've thought it would've been Dale, it would've been
I'm sure
Dale.
it was in my minutes and on the recording, it was Dale.
we can still do it.
I think it would've been Dale, and then
Do it right now?
We can.
it would,
Do it right now, we'll get it off the
I'm
agenda.
out, it would slide to
Take
Tim.
nominations and
That
then,
would slide
Yeah.
to Tim, I would think. Wouldn't it?
Think so?
I get a pay raise.
So at this time, I'm gonna look for a nomination for vice president.
Oh, you came in at the right time, didn't you? I would nominate Tim Boulder for vice president.
All right, we got a nomination for Tim Boulder as vice president. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we got a second by Mr. Shipe. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thanks, Tim.
I still have my wood gavel, so I'll bring that someday.
Okay, baby. All right.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, and yeah, absolutely. Welcome, Andrew. Yeah, it's great to have you. It's gonna be fun. It's riveting work we do, like I say.
Troy
Yep,
nominated.
Troy made the motion, seconded by Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew second.
So then are we waiting for a motion to get out of here?
We're waiting for a motion to get out of here.
So moved.
We got a motion to adjourn.
Vice President Sate makes that motion.
Yep, and a second by,
I will second.
a second by Shipe. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And